She has lived the life that she is talking about. She is very unusual in the sense that she's a woman writing war stories. And Balidan is actually her 4th book, which even I did not know. I just discovered when we were talking before this. So you are in for, I think I have only 40 minutes, but you are in for 40 minutes of a wonderful, wonderful time. Since forces always believe in ladies first, sir, मैं इनसे शुरुआत करती हूँ. Swapnil, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? I know that it's been very fascinating. You're an army wife yourself. You've chosen a very unusual path of writing stories that are related to defense. And you've written both fiction and non-fiction. तो थोड़ा सा अपनी journey के बारे में बता देंगी?
A very warm good afternoon to all of you present here. First of all, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Jagannathan ji, Shefali ji, and all the organizers for having me here. It's been 8 years that I'm writing, and I have attended some of the most happening literature festivals in India. And Western Ghat Lit Fest is truly unique in the sense that I saw like a lot of culture, history, and legacy has been discussed on the platform. And this year on, you have also decided to include Tales of Valor in this platform, which is again very, very welcoming and wonderful thought. Because see, when you talk about culture, history, and legacy of a nation, of Bharatvarsh or any nation, that circle cannot be completed without mentioning the warriors, the soldiers who have spilled their blood for this, to retain this culture and history and legacy. So thank you again. Thank you for having us here and listening to the sides of our soldier. Talking about my journey, Shefali ma'am, actually I'm a destined author. I never planned to be an author. I am a BITS Meshra alumni. I was working in corporate. Then I was a very simple homemaker. I have 2 children. Younger one is now, this time he's 5 years old. And I started writing when my eldest one was hardly 3-4 months. So it was, I never planned it. In fact, I tried to quit it many times. But see, वो कहते हैं ना कि अगर destiny होती है, आपको खींच के ले जानी है तो कहीं खींच के ले जाएगी. So saying that, when you say wife of a defense personnel, we are a fraternity of million women strong. And we are a very compact, confidential and close society. Because our husband is in a profile like that. So not many women from our fraternity come outside, and we have the most fascinating stories. मतलब आपके जो योद्धा हैं, जो वीर हैं, जो देश की पहाड़ों पे चढ़ते हैं, extreme situations को फेस करते हैं, बर्फ में, पहाड़ में, डेजर्ट में, जो fiercest of enemies हैं आपके, जिनसे आपकी रक्षा करते हैं, उनकी कहानियां कितनी fascinating होती होंगी, नहीं आती हैं सामने. हमारी कोई लॉबी नहीं है, हमारी कोई स्पॉन्सरशिप नहीं है, हमारी कोई आइडियोलॉजी नहीं है. हम एक ही आइडियोलॉजी से बिलोंग करते हैं, वो है देश प्रेम, नेशंस फर्स्ट. सो ईश्वर चाहते थे कि somebody from the fraternity comes outside और वो authenticity के साथ लेके आए कहानियां. तो it just happened to me. और एक के बाद एक किताब आती गई, सफल भी होती गई. शायद सफल नहीं होती, लोग नहीं पढ़ते, तो मेरा शौक हो जाता कि मैंने एक किताब लिख दी है बस, क्योंकि मेरे बच्चे हैं, मेरा पति है, मेरा फुल फ्लेजेड एक जिंदगी है. बट किताबें सफल होती गई, लोगों को पसंद आती गई, बिकॉज बहुत ही यूनिक पर्सपेक्टिव है. और बट हाँ, कहानियों की जो पावर है, जब मैंने अपने आप को सीरियसली लेना शुरू किया, वो मैंने किया फोर्स बिहाइंड द फोर्सेस के बाद. मेरे 2 फिक्शन लिखी थी, सोल्जर्स गर्ल एंड लव स्टोरी फॉर कमांडो, 2016-17 में. तब फौज के बारे में बातें भी नहीं होती थी. ये सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक एंड उड़ी अटैक्स के बारे में ना थोड़ा नेशनल मीडिया में फौज आने लगा. हम उससे पहले लिखते थे. तो मेरी जो किताबें हैं वो आर्मी वाइफ्स जो हैं, आर्मी गर्लफ्रेंड्स, जो यंग कैडेट्स होते हैं ना मिलिट्री एकेडमीज में, जो लड़के लोहा बनने के लिए तैयार हो रहे होते हैं, उनकी बहुत पसंदीदा किताब होती थी. वो अपने गर्लफ्रेंड्स को गिफ्ट कर देते थे. ज्यादा बोल नहीं पाते हैं, फौजी सरल होते हैं, बट एक किताब आ गई थी तो वो थोड़ा उनको एक अच्छा वो मिल गया था, भाई छुट्टी में आ रहे हैं, गर्लफ्रेंड कान खा रही दे दो. फिर उन किताबों में जो न्यूली वेडेड होती थी, and then the second one, the love story of a commando, when that book came, Galwan standoff has happened. So a lot of young wives, they would tell me, they will message me that in those stories we found ourselves. But it is the third book, The Force Behind the Forces, written on the war widows, the wives of the soldiers who have lost their husbands in the line of duty. For us, their soldiers have, their husbands have lost their lives for us, for our sovereignty, freedom. So I wrote that book, and it was that time I realized the power of words, power of stories. This world is all about stories, no? Everything is a narrative, everything is an ideology. So this was a perspective which said that women behind the forces are equally strong, in fact, stronger than our soldiers, and people really, really loved it. And then came Balidan, which talks about our special forces. It's a very, very exciting, high on adrenaline book, published by HarperCollins. And now I'm taking myself seriously after fourth book, that, okay, this is the book. I have to do the authoring because people like to read me. My next book is on Air Force.
We'll talk about that
so
in a bit.
This is about my journey. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Swapnil. जो वीरों की the heroes that she was talking about, well, we have an example right here. Yogendra Singh ji, a legend hero, Paramveer Chakra. इससे तो ज़्यादा वीरता, it's not possible to be a greater veer. He's a Paramveer than this. So his book, which is available outside, The Hero of Tiger Hill, it's a very, very riveting read. In fact, I read the Marathi translation first, which has been done by my friend Sunetra. In fact, she has translated her book as well and his book as well. It's very interesting. So I read both their books in Marathi first and then in the original. सर मैं पूछना चाहूंगी, he will speak in Hindi, wherever necessary I will translate. सर मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी कि 19 साल की उम्र में आप सैनिक बने, जिस उम्र में आजकल के जो सिटीज के बच्चे होते हैं वो पब्स में जाते हैं या कॉलेज में पार्टी करते हैं, उस समय आप सर्विंग सोल्जर थे, तो और आप एक बहुत ही छोटे परिवार से, बहुत एक छोटे गांव से आए, तो आपका जो जर्नी है वो कैसा रहा और क्यों आपको लगा कि फौज ज्वाइन करना चाहिए?
बिल्कुल, मैं गांव से हूं और एक किसान का बेटा हूं और एक जवान का बेटा हूं, और गांव ही हमारी राष्ट्र की सनातन संस्कृति का सबसे सूत्रधार है। जो यहाँ पर पिछले जो वक्ता थे उन्होंने उल्टा प्रदेश कहा, ये उल्टा प्रदेश नहीं, सच में ये उत्तम प्रदेश ही रहा है। आजादी से पहले भी और आजादी के बाद में भी। आजादी की शुरुआत 10 मई 1857 को मेरठ से शुरू हुआ था। तो ये, और आजादी के बाद उत्तर प्रदेश एक ऐसा धरा रहा जहां 21 परमवीर चक्र में से 5 परमवीर चक्र उत्तर प्रदेश के हैं।
वाओ।
और वो, क्योंकि माँ और पिता बच्चे के सबसे पहले शिक्षक होते हैं, जिस तरह के वो भाव और भावनाएं उस बच्चे के अंदर डालते हैं तो बच्चा तो उसी तरह के भावों में जीता है। पिता अपने दोस्तों को बड़ी कहानियां सुनाया करते थे, 65 में हमने ये किया, 71 में हमने ये किया, लाशें पड़ी होती हैं फिर भी चलना होता है, खाना नहीं मिलता, पानी नहीं मिलता, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? हम पूछते थे सवाल, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? बिना खाना खाए, बिना पानी पिए, बिना सोए कैसे आदमी काम करेगा? बोला नहीं करते हैं हम। फिर 6th क्लास में आया तो अब्दुल हमीद की कहानी को पढ़ा, जिसने अकेले, हिंदुस्तान का अकेला सैनिक जिसने पाकिस्तान के 8 पैटर्न टैंकों को ध्वस्त किया और 9वें पे निशाना लगाते लगाते मां भारती की गोद में सो गया। उसकी कहानी को पढ़ते ही फिर लगा नहीं, फौज में जाना है। फौज में क्यों जाना है? ये पर्पज भी मिल गया कि युद्ध लड़ना है। तो इसीलिए आज मैं जैसे युवाओं के बीच जाता हूं, पूछता हूं भाई डॉक्टर क्यों बनना है? मम्मी ने बोला है। अच्छा, इंजीनियर क्यों बनना है? पापा ने बोला है। तुझे क्या बनना है? पता नहीं अंकल। यानी पर्पज ऑफ लाइफ का नहीं पता है। जब पर्पज नहीं होगा तो पैशन नहीं होगा, पैशन नहीं होगा तो परफॉर्मेंस नहीं होगा, और परफॉर्मेंस नहीं होगा तो पॉजिटिविटी नहीं होगी, और पॉजिटिविटी नहीं होगी तो जीवन में डिसिप्लिन नहीं होगा, और डिसिप्लिन नहीं होगा तो डेडिकेशन नहीं होगा। उस भाव से 16 साल 5 महीने की अवस्था में फौज में भर्ती होके गया। मेरे बहुत सारे दोस्त कई बार उन्होंने जो है भर्तियां देखी लेकिन नहीं सेलेक्ट हुई, और मैं पहली बार माँ को बच्चे की कमजोरी और ताकत का पता होता है। भाई से और फादर से मना किया था इसको मत भेजना, ये पहली बार में भर्ती हो जाएगा। उन्होंने बड़ा कमेंट्स किया, अच्छा इसके लिए कई भारत सरकार ने अलग से वैकेंसी निकाली है, रिजर्व सीट है। बोला नहीं रिजर्व नहीं, ये पक्का हो जाएगा भर्ती, और एक ही बार में गया, भर्ती होकर के चला गया। हम जो यहाँ पे बात कर रहे हैं, सनातन की बात कर रहे हैं, सच में अभी जो मैम ने अभी इसके योगा के ऊपर जो बातें की, ब्रीदिंग, ये ब्रीदिंग, ये सांस हमारे जीवन के हर कार्य से जुड़ी हुई है। और आज मैं यहाँ पे बैठा हूं तो इस ब्रीदिंग की वजह से बैठा हूं। माँ ने 6 क्लास से भी पहले आध्यात्म में डाल दिया था। वो बस गायत्री मंत्र का जाप करना है, 1 घंटे सूरज की तरफ बैठ करके माला का जाप करना है। सुबह पीले कपड़े पहनना, संडे को जाकर के छत पे बैठ जाना, 1.5 घंटे तक बैठे रहना, माला का जाप किया, वो स्ट्रेंथ बढ़ती चली गई। जब पाकिस्तानी गोली मार रहे थे ना, अगर सांस चल रही होती तो बॉडी हिल रही होती, बॉडी हिल ही नहीं रही थी, इसलिए वो गोली मारते रहे और उनको पता ही नहीं चला कि ये जिंदा भी है। ये उस जर्नी से स्टार्ट हुआ। और हम सोचते थे, क्योंकि अभी 16 साल की उम्र का बहुत जिक्र हो रहा था, 16 साल की अवस्था बहुत खतरनाक अवस्था होती है। सच में हमने जब पहले पढ़ा था कि 16 साल का वो लड़का जो इस धरती पर पैदा हुआ और जिसने दुनिया के सबसे बड़े योद्धाओं के द्वारा रचित अभिमन्यु अब चक्रव्यूह को तोड़ दिया था। हम काल्पनिक समझते थे, काल्पनिक होगा, लेकिन आज की जो मॉडल माँ है उन्होंने उसको साबित कर दिया है कि सच था वो। क्योंकि आज की माएं बड़े गर्व से कहती हैं, मेरा 1.5 साल का बच्चा मोबाइल ऐसे ऐसे चलाता है। तो उसने गर्भ में मोबाइल ही सिखाया था, तो मोबाइल ही चलाएगा वो। उसने चक्रव्यूह को तोड़ने की शिक्षा सिखाई थी, चक्रव्यूह तोड़ दिया। तो माँ के गर्भ में आकर के बच्चे ने बहुत कुछ सीखा, फिर इन्वायरमेंट से सीखता है, घर से सीखता है, और फिर यही उसकी स्ट्रेंथ बढ़ती हुई चली जाती है।
I'll translate a little bit. Do I need to translate or did everybody understand it? Everybody understood it? Okay. So I'll translate it in short. He says that he belongs to a very small village, and villages are the real place where Bharat lives, and which is very true as we have seen from yesterday. And his father was also a serving officer, so he grew up listening to the war stories by his father about the 71 war, about the 65 war, and he used to keep asking questions to his father. And his mother instilled in him great respect for Sanatana values. When he was a child, he was made to recite the Gayatri Mantra and do pranayam. And that practice, he says, really helped him in the war, because when he was hiding from the enemy lines, in the sense that they were facing the enemy lines, where if he was breathing, they could sense movement and they could shoot. But because he could control his breath, because he could do pranayama, he could stay absolutely still, and that is the reason why he could do what he did. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And he also talked about it is the influence of the mother, it's the influence of the father, it's the influence of the home, and it's the influence of surroundings that makes a person's character what it is. It's really, really remarkable. Or the other thing that he said, that if you don't have passion, नहीं फर्स्ट पे क्या बोला था आपने?
पर्पज.
हाँ, if you don't have purpose, you don't have passion. If you don't have passion, then you don't have
purpose, performance,
and
positivity.
And if you don't have performance, you do not have positivity. Basically, what you need in life is purpose, which is very, very true, and I think it's true for all of us. Coming back to you, Swapnil, as a woman writer, when you're talking about war stories, when you're writing war stories, and your books involved a fair amount of preparation, fair amount of research, fair amount of going and talking to the families of the soldiers. So did you ever feel that you were not being taken seriously because you were a woman, or was it very comfortable for you?
Actually, if we talk about seriousness, I am one of the most seriously taken author currently in India in defense
No.
genre.
I know that. I am asking you, when you started writing the book and collecting the information, were you taken seriously then by the people that you were interviewing, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm coming in.
Yeah, okay.
See, that's what I'm saying. Why? Because I belong to defense fraternity. So unlike the popular perceptions, Fauji's are the most chivalrous men you will ever come across as a woman. They keep their woman on pedestals, or any woman in that matter. I don't know how many of you know, but when a cadet joins a military academy, in their first year, they are taught how to treat a woman. This is taught. In personality development, there is a courses. The Faujis there are raising their hands. So they are taught how to treat a woman, because it is assumed that when you're a soldier, you're a powerful soldier, laced with a gun, you have certain power, and you don't know how to respect women. And respecting women is basically, again, culture of our country. So it is taught to a soldier. So that was never a problem to me. But yes, when I go outside, people, they find it very astonishing that a woman is covering war stories and writing about the operations and, very big operations like Pampore operation, when the terrorists have captured an entire building of JKEDI, Captain Tushar Mahajan, Colonel Santosh Mahadik we were discussing. Again, he was a commanding officer who sacrificed his life leading from the front. So these are the kind of stories that I'm covering. Major Shashidharan Nair story. He belonged to Kerala. So, but because I live with these men, I live, breathe, and it's been 15 years, so they come really naturally to me, and people have been encouraging to me. In fact, being a woman has been benefit to me, because I am touching that feminine touch to the otherwise masculine stories of soldiers. You know, I am portraying them as fathers. Most people think that they are war machines. They only imagine that soldiers are fighting the wars. They are just the robots maybe, and they're just the war machine. No, they are, look at him. You know, he's a soldier. Look at me, I am a family. So we are also family person. We are sons, fathers, daughters. It's very much like our aspirations are similar to everybody else, you know. So that touch, and me being there, I am also bringing forward the stories, struggle, and sacrifices that family of a soldier make. Like everybody here knows about Saab, Yogendra Saab. He's a living legend. He's a Paramveer Chakra. Anybody thought about his wife? When I met him, I asked about his wife first. So when a woman is writing, ma'am, the woman's side is coming forward, and people have been very, very encouraging about it.
That's really wonderful, actually, and that's a very unique perspective that you bring on board, actually. Yogendra ji, I remember we were all, many of us, in my generation at least, we were in our 20s when the Kargil war broke, and it was the first war that was televised live. And I remember all of us were glued to the television, and we were watching day by day what was happening, where was Indian Army going, what are the operations that they were doing. And suddenly the war that, you know, that seemed distance became a part of our life. हमारी जिंदगी का हिस्सा बना, क्योंकि हम रोज देख रहे थे कि क्या हो रहा है. आप उस वॉर में आपने प्रत्यक्ष रूप से भाग लिया था, और आपका जो टाइगर हिल का बैटल है वो तो लेजेंडरी है. मैं आपसे थोड़ा सा उस बैटल के बारे में जानना चाहूंगी कि क्या सिचुएशन था, कैसे हुआ.
बिल्कुल, ये कारगिल का वार एक ऐसा वार था जो पूरे देश ने टीवी के माध्यम से अपने घरों में बैठ करके देखा था, और पूरा देश एक सोल्जर्स के साथ इमोशनली जुड़ गया था. तो वहां टाइगर हिल द्रास सेक्टर की वो पहाड़ी थी जो 17,000 फीट ऊंची थी, जिसने पूरे द्रास सेक्टर को डोमिनेट कर लिया था. वहां से पहाड़ी की हाइट ज्यादा होने की वजह से डोमिनेटेशन ज्यादा था, तो दुश्मन दूर तक देख सकता था, तो मार सकता था. तो हमारी एक घातक प्लेटून थी, उसको आदेश दिया कमांडो टीम, उस पहाड़ी पर चढ़ना है. -20 डिग्री टेम्परेचर, अभी अगर 10 मिनट भी बाहर कमरे से खड़े हो जाएं तो चेहरे की स्किन फट करके खून टपकना शुरू हो जाता। हम 21 जवानों की टीम, खून टपक रहा था, चल रहे थे, रात को चल सकते थे, दिन में नहीं, फिर रात भर चलते थे। तो इस तरह से 2 रात और 1 दिन उस पहाड़ी पर चलते रहे। तीसरी रात का वो मंजर तो आज भी मेरी आंखों के सामने ऐसे दरसता है, शायद वो कल की ही तो बात है। बिल्कुल 90 डिग्री की चट्टान जिस पर चढ़ना असंभव सा प्रतीत हो रहा था। रस्सियों के सहारे हमने चढ़ना शुरू किया, दुश्मन ने फायर खोल दिया। केवल 7 जवान हम ऊपर चढ़ पाए, बाकी को चढ़ने नहीं दिया। और ये 7 जवान 5 घंटे तक 150 पाकिस्तानी सोल्जर्स के साथ लड़ते रहे। शुरुआत में जब वो ऐसी परिस्थिति आई कि एक कदम आगे रखते हैं तो हेड शूट है और एक कदम पीछे रखते हैं तो हेड शूट है। जब लगा कि मरना है तो जो हिंदुस्तान की माँ हैं उनको मैं नमन करता हूं कि अपने बेटे को जब विजय तिलक लगा करके भेजती हैं तो कहती हैं सीने का दूध पिलाया है, सीने पर गोली खाना, कभी पीठ पर गोली मत खाना। और हिंदुस्तान की सेना में एक ही वर्ड होता, एडवांस, विड्रॉल नहीं है। मरना है तो हमारी माओ ने और इस भारत माँ ने, सिंह ने और शेर पैदा किए हैं तो सिंह ने और शेर की तरह लड़ करके मार करके मरना है। ऐसे ही लड़ते रहे और फिर ऐसी परिस्थिति आई जो आज तक तो सिर्फ आप लोगों ने फिल्मों में देखा होगा कि गर्दनें कटती हैं, धड़ चलते हैं। मैंने उन पलों को देखा नहीं, जिया है। मैं सर से लेकर के पैर तक लहू लुहान था, नाक से खून की धार बह रही थी। मेरा साथी मुझे फर्स्ट एड करने लगता है, उसको यहाँ पे गोली लगती, इधर से पूरा सर निकल करके बाहर हो जाता। उसका हाथ पकड़ा, सर क्या हुआ, लेकिन एक शब्द तक न बोल पाया। ऐसे मेरी बगल में बैठा मेरा ट्रेनिंग का साथी, मैं उसको बोला अनंतराम सर को तो गोली लगी। क्या? ये उसके जीवन का आखिरी शब्द था। उसको सीने में गोलियां लगती हैं, फेफड़ों से खून की फुहारें छूटती, मेरी गोद में आकर के लेट जाता है। एक साथी हेल्प के लिए आगे आया, पाकिस्तान की आर्टिलरी का बम वहां पर गिरता है, उसकी यहां से गर्दन कट करके से दूर जाकर के पड़ती है। चारों तरफ खून की बौछारें ही बौछारें थी। नाकों से देख रहा था, उस धड़ पर सर नहीं था, लेकिन हाथों से बंदूक नहीं छूटी और वो धड़ 2 कदम तक चला, फिर गिर गया। एक और साथी आगे बढ़ा, एक और बम गिरता है, उसके दोनों हाथ दोनों पैर कट जाते हैं। इस तरह से एक एक करके हमारे तमाम साथी शहीद हो गए। मैं भी उनकी तरफ से मर चुका था। उनका एक कमांडर था, उसने बोला इनको रिचेक तो करो, इनमें से कोई जिंदा तो नहीं बच गया। पाकिस्तान के जवान हमारे जवानों की बॉडियों में जब गोलियां मारते थे तो बॉडी ऐसे उछलती थी ऊपर की तरफ। सामने वाले को मारा, बगल वाले को मारा, मैं इस तरह से पड़ा था। उसने फर्स्ट में यहाँ पे गोलियां मारी, मैं देख रहा हूँ कि धुआं निकल रहा है। फिर इधर से भी पैर में गोली मारी, बॉडी में कोई हरकत नहीं, उनको लगा कि ये मर गया। फिर उन्होंने अमानवीय क्रूरताओं का तांडव किया, हमारे जवानों की बॉडियों में पत्थर मारने लगे ताकि ये बॉडी छत विछत हो जाए, बूट की ठोकरें मारने लगे, गालियां देने लगे। और इस सब कुछ पड़ा सहता रहा, देखता रहा। बहुत देर ये तांडव करने के बाद उनका एक कमांडर सुने पुनः बोला अपने साथियों को, बोला नीचे जो हिंदुस्तान का पोस्ट है उसके ऊपर हमला करो और इनके हथियार उठा लो। जैसे ही हमारे हथियार उठाने के लिए कुछ जवान आए, कुछ गोलियां मार रहे थे, तो वो जब नजदीक आए तब मन और मस्तिष्क के अंदर एक विश्वास पैदा किया, अपने आप से कमिटमेंट किया कि अगर इसने सर और सीने में गोली नहीं मारी, चाहे मेरे हाथ पैर दोनों ही काट करके क्यों ना ले जाएं, मैं उफ तक नहीं करूंगा और मैं जिंदा भी रहूंगा। और आज उसी विश्वास से बैठा भी हूं आपके बीच में। वो आया, दोबारा से गोली मारी, उसने बाजू में पैर में गोली मारी, 2 कदम चला, मैं देख रहा था, रुक गया वो। उसके रुकते ही उसने पीछे मुड़ा और राइफल ऐसे सीने की तरफ करी। तब कुछ पल के लिए लगा कि यार अब तो नहीं बचेगा, लेकिन कहते हैं जाको राखे साइयां मार सके ना कोई, और इस देश को भारत माँ ऐसे नहीं कहते हैं। ये माँ अपने बेटों की वीरता, शौर्य, पराक्रम, बलिदान को कभी दफन नहीं होने देती। शायद मुझे वो माध्यम चुन लिया होगा। जब उसने गोली चलाई तो यहाँ पे पर्स रखा था, क्योंकि पूरी पैंटें फट गई थी चलते चलते। उसमें कुछ 5-5 रुपए के सिक्के थे। शायद माँ भारती ने उन सिक्कों को इकट्ठा कर दिया होगा। तो तो जाकर के गोली सिक्कों पे लगी, रिकोचिट हुई। उस गोली के फोर्स से, पावर से मुझे लगा मैं मर गया हूं। फिर वो पाकिस्तान का जवान मेरा हथियार उठा करके जाने लगा होगा, उसका पैर शायद मेरे पैर से टकराया, तब मुझे चेतना आई। तब लगा योगेंद्र अभी तक नहीं मरा तो अब मरेगा भी नहीं। पहले ग्रेनेड से हमला किया तो एक पाकिस्तानी का सर फटा, फिर उसके हाथ से राइफल को उठाने की चेष्टा करी। ये हाथ की तो हड्डी निकल के पूरी बाहर थी, सिर्फ कंधा हिला। एक हाथ से राइफल उठाई, फिर वहां से फायरिंग किया। 3-4 जगह से जब फायरिंग किया तब लगा, उनको लग गया कि यहाँ अकेला नहीं है, नीचे से रीइंफोर्समेंट आ गई है। फिर उनके पैर उखड़े, भागे वहां से। बेबस लाचार था, चल नहीं सकता था, पैर की मसल्स निकल गई थी। लेकिन हताश और निराश नहीं हुआ, खिसकता, रेंगता, फायर करता 4-5 मीटर आगे गया। फिर जाकर के देखता हूं सब वो भागते हुए जा रहे हैं। उनका सामने तो लंगर चल रहा था, लिविंग टेंट लगे हुए थे, वेपन के डिप्लॉयमेंट, सब कुछ छोड़ करके भाग रहे। फिर मन में ख्याल आया, फिर वहां बहुत देर, योगेंद्र नीचे जाना है, अपने साथियों को बचाना है। फिर धीरे धीरे खिसकता अपने साथियों तक आया जहां पर शहीद हो रखे थे। फिर मन में ख्याल आया, देख इनमें से कोई जिंदा तो नहीं बच गया। आकर के देखने लगा तो किसी का ये सर फटा हुआ बाहर था, किसी के पूरे फेफड़े निकले हुए बाहर थे, किसी की गर्दन उधर थी, किसी का पैर उधर था, तो किसी के हाथ उधर थे। बहुत देर बैठ करके रोया। 2 साल की सर्विस, 19 साल की उम्र, उस पहाड़ी से हिंदुस्तान किधर है, पाकिस्तान किधर है, कहीं पता ही नहीं था। लेकिन हम जब सच में सोल, आत्मा से रोते हैं तो हम अपने आप से कनेक्ट होते हैं। और हम ये बॉडी या शरीर तो नहीं है, हम सोल हैं। और वो सोल, वो आत्मा तो परमात्मा का अंश है। जब परमात्मा से जुड़ते हैं तो ऐसे रोता हुआ मैं अपने आप से जुड़ा, अपने परमात्मा से जुड़ा, तो शायद उस सुदर्शन चक्रधारी से जुड़ गया होऊंगा। तुरंत आवाज आई, योगेंद्र बेटे नीचे की तरफ यहां से चला जा। उस आवाज की बदौलत 500 मीटर उस पहाड़ी पर रोल करते नीचे आया। फिर अपने साथियों को इन्फॉर्म किया और उसी इंफॉर्मेशन के आधार के ऊपर दोबारा से उस पहाड़ी पर हमला हुआ और बिना किसी कैजुअलिटी के टाइगर हिल टॉप के ऊपर विजय पताका फहरा दिया। टाइगर हिल की जीत कारगिल युद्ध का यू टर्न था, फिर सीज फायर हो गया। आज हम 26 जुलाई को कारगिल विजय दिवस मनाते हैं और मुझे ये बताते हुए बड़ा फक्र भी होता है, लेकिन दुख ये भी होता है कि हमें ये भी पता नहीं होगा कि वो 61-65 में तो कितने लोग मरे होंगे, उनका तो कोई काउंटिंग नहीं। लेकिन ये तो था, हम ये भी नहीं जानते होंगे कारगिल वॉर के अंदर कितने हमारे वीरों ने शहादत दी है। 545 मां भारती के बेटों ने इस आजादी की रक्षा के लिए अपने आप को कुर्बान किया है। और मुझे फक्र हुआ कि मैं इसी वर्ष, क्योंकि 2024 कारगिल की रजत जयंती वर्ष है, 25 साल पूरे हुए, उनमें से 300 प्लस फैमिलियों से मिला हूं। क्योंकि मुझे वो याद आया वादा, जब लास्ट में कमांडिंग ऑफिसर कहता है कि लास्ट चिट्ठी लिख दीजिए, तो लास्ट चिट्ठी में क्या लिखेंगे हम? मैं ठीक हूं, अपना ध्यान रखना। लेकिन जब साथ में चलते हैं ना, तो बोलता है यार अगर मैं मर गया ना तो मेरे घर एक बार जरूर देख के आना, मेरे बच्चे क्या कर रहे होंगे। जब वो आज उनके पास गया तो शायद उनकी सोल, उसकी आत्मा वो घर तक जरूर पहुंची होगी। आज वो फैमिली जो उसके उस समय 2 महीने का पेट में गर्भ था, आज वो 25 साल का बच्चा है, उसको अपने पैरों पे खड़ा किया। और आज हमारे लिए वो साहस की, विश्वास की और आदर्श की एक प्रतिमूर्ति के रूप में है। मुझे महाराष्ट्र की एक बीड की लेडी मिली, उसने अपने आप को इतना स्ट्रांग किया, बोला मेरे 1 महीने की बेटी थी जब मेरा पति शहीद हुआ था। ससुराल वाले अलग खींच रहे हैं, ससुराल और मायके वाले अलग खींच रहे हैं। बोला समाज बहुत इतना आसान नहीं है इस समाज में रहना। समाज से लड़ी, बोले नहीं, दोनों पक्षों को साथ में लेकर के जाऊंगी। 15 साल संघर्ष किया। 15 साल के बाद बोला मैंने एक कंपनी अलग से खड़ी करी और आज मैं इस कंपनी के जरिए बहुत सारे लोगों को रोजगार दे रही हूं। तो ऐसे योद्धा हैं इस देश में, ऐसी वीर नारियां हैं। और ये जो सैनिक वहां पे लड़ पा रहा है ना, तो नारी के बगैर नहीं लड़ पाएगा। क्योंकि इस देश में ही ऐसा है जो एक पत्नी अपने मांग के सिंदूर को राष्ट्र पर कुर्बान तो कर सकती है, लेकिन अपने मांग के सिंदूर को कायर देख नहीं सकती है। एक बेटी अपने बाप को कायर होता हुआ नहीं देख सकती है। एक बेटी अपने बाप को एक वीर योद्धा के रूप में देखना चाहती है, एक मां देखना चाहती है। तो वही जो भाव हैं वो सैनिक के पास पहुंचते हैं। इसलिए सैनिक अपने लिए कुछ भी नहीं सोचता और सब कुछ अपने राष्ट्र पर कुर्बान कर देता है। कुमार जो है, एक कौन से कुमार हैं, उन्होंने एक दो लाइन बहुत अच्छी लिखी। जब घर में शहीद का जो पार्थिव शरीर आता है तो उसकी जो फौजी आए हैं उनकी दाह संस्कार के लिए, तो बोला आपका पति शहीद हो गया। उन्होंने कहा, तो वो पत्नी क्या कहती है कि अकेला था कमाने वाला। बोला बाप की दवाई गई, भाई की पढ़ाई गई, छोटी छोटी बेटियों की चोटियां चली गईं, अचानक एक ऐसा धमाका हुआ, इस शरीर की सारी बोटियां ही चली गईं। साहब आपके लिए तो एक आदमी मरा है, मेरे घर की तो सारी रोटियां ही चली गईं। तो उसने उन चीजों को देख करके मैंने भी सोचा कि मैं एक बुक लिखूं और प्रेरित हुआ। और फिर हीरो ऑफ टाइगर हिल, जो अपने पिता फौजी थे, सिपाही थे, नाम तो इसको देना चाह रहा था एक सिपाही का परमवीर, लेकिन और उन्होंने जो है इसको हीरो ऑफ टाइगर हिल के नाम दे दिया। तो ये एक फौजी की कहानी है और फौजी पूरा राष्ट्र को समर्पित है और हर सांस उसके जो है, और तभी वो कर पाता है क्योंकि जो उसकी जो घरवाली है वो घर को संभाल लेती है।
I cannot translate this. You will have to buy the book and read the story from his own. I really cannot translate it, but I have goose pimples, and I'm sure all of you do. It's a remarkable story what he has told, and I really cannot translate it. This I'm sorry. Give me a minute to just recover from this. Coming back to you, Swapnil, and what Yogendra ji has actually said fits in very nicely with your book, The Force Behind the Force, that jab sainik ladta hai, when a soldier fights on the front, it's not just him who is fighting. Somebody had told me once a very powerful quote, those who wait also serve, because those who wait for him at his home, his family members, they also serve. They may not be in the uniform, but they are every bit serving as much as the soldier is. So tell me a little bit about your book, The Force Behind the Forces, which basically talks about the same stories.
जैसा योगेंद्र साहब ने कहा वीर नारियों के बारे में,
इंग्लिश प्लीज।
सॉरी, आई एम सो सॉरी साहब, आपके साथ ना मेरे भी हम हिंदी भाषी वर्ल्ड से आते हैं. So as Yogendra Saab mentioned about war widows, and as he mentioned about women behind the forces, and he said that a soldier cannot fight without the support of the women behind. See, it's not a new concept. Everybody in the forge understand this, because you have to understand Indian soldiers are unlike soldiers of any other nation. We are not mercenaries. We are not fighters of Ukraine or Afghanistan. Taliban had taken over. Okay, so there are a lot of examples from the world across, and lot of ideologies that these soldiers belong to. But when we talk about India, India is a culturally rich nation. We are the nation of families. We have the examples of Sita Ram, Radhe Krishna, Mirabai. You know, there's always emotions. Even the wars of Mahabharatas, Ramayana, these wars have been fought over the dignity of a woman. So these are our roots from where we belong to, from where our women, where mothers have raised, men like Yogendra Saab and all the Indian soldiers. There are soldiers sitting there, Wing Commander Sudarshan and Group Captain Venkatesh. I met them. Some of the soldiers from Indian Armed Forces are sitting amongst us. So these men are raised by strong women. And every name you pick out of the history who have done anything for the Bharat Varsha, for our identity, you will always find a woman behind. like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, उनकी मदर का नाम आता है. ऐसे बड़े एग्जाम्पल, सीता राम, हम आज भी we mention Sita ji before Ram. So the same ideology, the Indian soldiers, you know, when a girl is married to a soldier, the first thing that is said to her, the first day, which is said to her by her husband is that you'll always come third. The first will always be the mother nation. He is a boy. The soldier is a boy who has been picked by armed forces at the age of 17, maybe 18 or 19. And he's trained and groomed that way. So he says that my nation comes first, then comes the men I command, and then my family or you will come. And she's that girl who accepts this ideology. See, again, this narrative is very, very important because in today's time, why I chose to write about the force behind the forces, highlight the courage of because I mention really beautiful love stories. There is a mention of one story, the eternal love story. It is the love story of Major Shashidharan Nair and his wife, Trupti Nair. Now, Trupti is a paraplegic person. And the soldier, Major Shashidharan Nair, sacrificed his life in an ID blast. Sab wo ID blast mein, he lost his life. And what has happened that they were aware. Well, he was posted at a sector Lam. Lam is right at LOC. Right at LOC. Not 10 kilometers behind. So, those days after surgical strike has happened and he sacrificed his life in 2019. So, intense cross-border firings would happen. Even the artillery shellings would happen in that sector. And Pakistanis would, lay ID mines. Their militants would come and lay the mines and all. So, at one point of story, when I was researching his story, I got to know the JCO who was with him in that particular war. He mentioned that Saab knew that ID blast is there, ID is there, and yet he said, "Ki Saab, tum baal bacche wale ho, you have children and family behind you. You have a big family. I just have my wife, my mother and sister." Now listen to this. This woman, Trupti, is a paraplegic person. Major Shashidharan Nair was not just her husband, but also the purpose of the life. And we are living in an era where marriages are broken over reasons like caste, color, creed, dowry system. If you will not like the girl, you will reject her. This soldier, this is a true story. Right before their marriage, after the engagement, Trupti was discovered with a rare disease which lay her motionless below the waist area. And what it takes to break a marriage? We don't want to get married. But Major Shashidharan's mother, she said, if this would have happened to our daughter, what would have we done? She's like our daughter. And mother-in-law is saying that. And that soldier, he marries that girl. And they live happily ever after. And he was the only son in that family. His mother was again a widow. The sister was unmarried, and he had a wife to look after, And when it comes to sacrificing his life for the nation, he chooses the nation. And remember it, please, look at yourself. Ask yourself, will you do this? Maybe not, but our soldiers are like that. So he chooses that, he goes there, and in the blast, he sacrifices his life. Now, when I was talking to Trupti, she would cry all the time. She would cry all the time. It would take a lot of toll on me. I would feel, what am I doing? But then again, it is a very, very noble cause. A lot of people need to know this, that these kind of love stories exist, because we are living in an era of information hybrid warfare, narrations, where we are taught that true love stories do not exist. In fact, there's one very beautiful story in Balidan, where the love story
we are almost running out of time. I'm really sorry. So, can you sum up? I mean, I'm sure all the people will buy the book and read.
Yeah. The love story that I was talking about in Balidan has started in Isha Foundation. Okay. So Sadhguru is very, very responsible for that love story. So these are the kind of love stories I am bringing forward, where I'm telling people that women, true love stories exist. Women behind the forces are equal heroes, and these are inspiring stories, and they have got some purpose. And because in today's time, narrations are playing very disruptive role. So this is all about this.
I'm really sorry because of the time constraints. I'm sure that all of you will feel that this discussion can go on, and you will not get bored, but we have other speakers as well. So I have to wrap it up. I have to cut short question time also because this clock is wrong. I've been told that my time was only 2:40. Now it's 2:44. I will end with योगेंद्र जी, and I will ask you the last question, sir. जब आपने ये किताब लिखी थी तो आपने लिखा था कि ये किताब मैं इसलिए नहीं लिख रहा हूँ कि मेरी कहानी दुनिया को पता चले, मैं इसलिए लिख रहा हूँ कि ये कहानी पढ़ के इस देश के युवाओं को इंस्पिरेशन मिले फौज ज्वाइन करने के लिए, सोल्जर बनने के लिए, देश की सेवा करने के लिए. तो अगर आपको देश के युवाओं को कोई संदेश देना है तो आप क्या संदेश देंगे?
बिल्कुल, मैं देश के युवाओं को बस यही संदेश दूंगा कि नेशन फर्स्ट, और इस देश के लिए ही अपने आप को जिएं और इस देश के लिए ही इस देश को आगे बढ़ाएं, क्योंकि इस देश ने हमें शिक्षा दी, संस्कार दिए, सांस दी, खान पान दिया. अब और क्या चाहिए? अब हमें देने का काम आ गया है, अब हमें देना चाहिए. तो बस 2 लाइन कह रहा हूं कि ये सांसों के तराने हिंद का नवगान गाएगा, हमारा शौर्य ध्वज लेकर वो चंद्रयान गाएगा. हमारा किसका? युवाओं का. पूरी दुनिया कहती है भारत युवाओं का राष्ट्र है. 65% भारत में युवा है, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य ये है इस 65 में से 80% को ये पता नहीं सूरज कितने बजे निकलता है, क्योंकि हमने अपनी लाइफ स्टाइल को चेंज कर दिया है. रील का जमाना आ गया. रील बनाते हैं रात भर और रात को 2:30 बजे तक. तो ये रील ताकत नहीं देगी इस राष्ट्र को. तो हमारा शौर्य ध्वज लेकर वो चंद्रयान गाएगा. हमारे प्राण माता भारती के पक्ष समर्पित हैं. हमारे लहू का हर कतरा हिंदुस्तान गाएगा, हिंदुस्तान गाएगा. जय हिंद, जय भारत.
That was amazing and inspirational. Unfortunately, yes, they both deserve a standing ovation. Unfortunately, because of lack of time, I cannot take questions, but both the speakers will be available for book signings and for personal interactions if you want to talk to them. अंत में मैं बस यही बोलूंगी, if life makes you Yogendra Yadav, if life makes you Yogendra Yadav, be the hero of the Tiger Hill. Do not become the zero of question hour on Republic or Times Now or anything.
Very much moved. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Professor Kanaga Sabapati, sir, and Sunetra Jogji. She has translated the Marathi version of Balidan. Both. She is a Sahitya Academy winner. She has come all the way from Goa. Professor Kanaga Sabapati, sir, Trustee and Secretary, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation. Hero of Tiger Hill by Honorary Captain Yogendra Singh Yadav ji, Paramveer Chakra awardee. His book and Balidan is being released now. He, yeah. So, tough. May I now request Group Captain, Wing Commander Soumitra Mishra, who's a hero himself. He's been featured in Shiv Arur's India's Most Fearless. He and Mrs. Patricia Mishra to felicitate the speakers.
नेत्रा जी के बारे में प्लीज आप सब इनके लिए जोर से तालियां बजाइए. सैनिकों, हमारा सैनिकों का बैकग्राउंड है, हम समझते हैं. शी डज नॉट बिलोंग टू वन एंड येट इनके मन में इतना पैशन, इतनी श्रद्धा है अपने सोल्जर्स के लिए कि इन्होंने पूरी की किताब ट्रांसलेट कर देना. इट्स इनक्रेडिबल. प्लीज अ बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज फॉर हर, प्लीज.
In his own right, Soumitra ji is a hero himself. One chair. Next up, we have a very interesting panel discussion on Hindutva by very senior RSS ideologue, TV panelist, Sri Ratan Sharda ji. He's an author, written several books. His blog on RSS and Hindutva is one of the most elaborate I've read. He will be joined by Professor Kanagasabapati sir on Hindutva.
Oh, okay. So I'm very happy that we have one of my dearest friends and one of the Sangh ideologues, very learned, Sri Ratan Sharda ji with me to discuss on Hindutva. But we will not be taking much time, maybe about 30 minutes or so, and then remaining 15-20 minutes, we will give it for discussion because we want discussion points to emerge. All of us know, I need not tell the learned audience, that Hindutva is the way of life of Bharatvarsha. This is the very soul of this great civilization. You know, it is a way of life evolved over centuries and centuries of experiences lived by our ancestors. And all of us know Hindutva has unique methods, unique ways of life. We all know about Vasudeva Kudumbagam. In Tamil we call it Yadav More Yavarum Kelir. We treat everyone, every being, living, non-living being as our own. Bharatiyar said, Kakai Kuruvi Engal Jadi, Nel Kadalum Malayum Engal Kotam. Even small insects are part of our community. Seas and hills are part of us. So all of us know this. And we treat everybody as equal. Perapokkum ella uyirkum. And the Hindutva is for the well-being, happiness for everyone. எல்லோரும் இன்புற்றிருக்க நினைப்பதுவே அல்லாமல் யாமொன்றறியேன் பராபரமே. So this is how the unique experiences of our ancestors' lives have evolved into this Hindutva thought. Hindutva is nothing but Hindu-ness. But unfortunately now it is being largely used in political life with negative connotations. So I want Ratan Shardaji to explain this.
So I shouldn't be wasting time, my time on last session, but I must say that Yadav ji actually illustrated how spiritualism is the highest form of courage. Without spiritualism, you can fight, but you cannot fight with the Atman. And the way he saw himself, living or dead, and the way he experienced everything, I think that is the crux of our philosophy, vis-a-vis what others say. For others, what you win in war is your own property. In our case, as you saw, the Swapnilji said that how we respect women. She is not Male Ganimat. She is not meant to be used as slave, but respected like mother. So the both of them, in fact, encapsulated the very feeling of Hindutva. Also congratulate Shefali to control her tears the way they were speaking. It was really very touching. Coming to my own topic, as Kanakji has said, see, I ended up writing 6 books on RSS. 3 are here which cover basic different facets of Hindutva. But Kanakji has put it in 3 sentences. So either you read all the books to understand Hindutva, you will not understand. Or you just see the essence of what our life is, what our lifestyle is, what our way of life is, you will understand what is Hindutva. Basically, the very essence of our Hindu dharma, our thinking, that is what is Hindutva, is essence of our thinking or the behavior that we have, which is very distinct from other civilizations that we know of. And we are the only people who worship motherland as Devi. And that's why Rangahari ji, a veteran RSS Pracharak, used to say, we are not patriarchal society, we are matriarchal society. And of course, people from Kerala know that how we respect motherhood. So we are the only people who personify the motherland as Devi and worship her. And that is the reason we have very different outlook to life. Now, what is, I would say, I would like to have more discussions than question answers. So there are some common features to all the religions in Bharat. Hindu is not religion, but there are many religions under it. So the common features of way of life is that we, आप तो आगे टाइम पे आपका साहब ही panel. So one is that we believe in karma, whether it's any sect or any religion of Bharat, where we believe that karma is very basis of our life. What we do comes back to us within the same lifetime or the next lifetime. We believe in rebirth, whether Sikhism or Shaivism or Shaktism. We can keep on niggling about small things, but ultimately these 2 things define us. The way every philosophy, Buddhism, Jainism talks about it, we talk of moksha, nirvana, shunya, which is again common to every philosophy that has risen out of this land. And we worship nature. As I said, why we worship nature? Because we know our existing itself depends on nature. It is not superstition. It is actually, we know that if nature is there, we are there. That is the reason our farming lasted more than 10,000 years. Our land didn't become arid, but the Western way of farming had destroyed the farming lands within 200 to 300 years. And so when we talk of this, when we talk ekam vipra bahuda vadanti, very commonly used, that we respect all the thoughts. We say that every thought ultimately leads to the same truth, or every stream leads to the same sea. This is very different from other philosophies, we can say Abrahamic philosophies. We don't say that ours is the only way. We say your way is also open. But the Western philosophy, the Abrahamic philosophy says that's either my way or highway. So if you don't believe in my religion, my prophet, my God, then you are a kafir or you're a sinful person, so you will go to hell. So to save you from hell, I must kill you, I must convert you, I must take over land, you are a property. So this is the basic difference where we say that we are inclusive, others are exclusive. So if you understand these parts of the Hindutva, we understand why all the charges of Hindutva being reactionary, Hindutva being communal doesn't work. And as we go further, there are many things which don't even fall in the gamut of religion, but fall in the gamut of culture. Now the culture I talk about is culture which is common to all of us. You don't see it easily, but it is whether a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, we follow certain things irrespective of the faith we have. For example, when we go to a shop, the shop fellow gives you something on the top of what you already bought. You know, in Hindi we say runga dal do. In fact, in my book, I have quoted Hariji, where every language has a word for it. So you buy vegetable, you put some mirchi, some adrak on the top of that. If you go to a shopkeeper, not the modern shop, super malls, shopkeeper typically, who will put some part of the dal over the top, he will put something extra. Thinking is that when I'm doing trade with the customer is God. So if there is an error should be on my side, not on the side of the customer. And this is only in Indian subcontinent. Nowhere else in the world this happens. Again, if you go to any shop, we worship balance. We worship our equipment of production, whether it's machine, whether it's equipment in the farm, because we respect the means of production. We respect from where we earn. So if you go to any shop, generally if you go to a shop, traditional shop, you will not sit in the chair that the owner sits in. It is called gaddi. It is Lakshmi's gaddi, Lakshmi's chair. So only the owner will sit there. It is somebody forces you to sit on his chair. That is the ultimate respect that person has for you. You also see that when somebody comes on the stage, any artist, any religion, he will touch the stage very reverentially, because for us, drama, dance, music, everything is ultimately way to God. So that is the respect you give to stage. Or if you go to even games, our games are traditionally, every part of the Bharat has same games. We know that we put stones in the center, we break it with the ball. That is typical Indian game. Nobody else plays it. Kho-Kho, only India plays it. Kabaddi, India plays it. And why we are different? Only in our game there is Punarjanma. Right? So in Kho-Kho, if you catch somebody out, he can again get a rebirth when you kill another person, right? Now this sense of rebirth is only in our case. All these cases, there are no rules, there is no Olympic committee, there is no book, but we follow the same rules from Nagaland to Kerala, from Kerala to Punjab. This is the kind of cultural unity that we don't really appreciate. And there's nothing to do with religion. So when we say Hinduness, we talk of those qualities of our population of this country, which are common to all of us, and these make us unique. And when we preserve these qualities, that is when because if these qualities are lost, the world is lost. We are the only civilization which says everybody has a right to live, every thought has a right to live. All the wars that are fought over last hundreds of years are all because of religion or because of sense of superiority. So every cult, whether it's communism, they killed 11 crore people, whether it's Islam, who have killed crores of people, or even Christianity before they became civilized. They have killed thousands and lakhs of people just because you don't believe in their way of thinking, or their ideology. While in our case, our people went all over the world, right from Java, Sumatra to Mexico, China. You will find Ganesha, you will find Vishnu, you will find various Murtis, Hanumanji. In Iran, Iraq, 5,000-year-old, 3,000-year-old. So he went there, our merchants went there, they established their culture without killing anybody. So those people who joined us, they become part of Hindu stream. So you have Hindu temples in Afghanistan even today, though they try to destroy everything. Today somebody is asking me, why do they destroy the assets or the memorials or the knowledge system of the old civilizations? It's not just India, Africa, Europe, because they don't want anybody to believe that there are people who knew something before them. So in Islam it is called jahiliyat, that is ignorance. Now they think that anybody who doesn't believe in Allah is ignorant. So they destroy every sign of civilization before they came there. So in Saudi Arabia to find the old temples is impossible. Similarly in Christianity, most of the places they have tried to destroy everything. Something was saved by oversight. So that is how you can link the civilizations. So from a civilization which nurtures others, doesn't destroy them, that is Bharatiya civilization. And one that destroys every other religion or every other knowledge system because they fear the knowledge, or they in fact rob that civilization, this knowledge to name as their own. So if we are not there, Hindutva is not there, it is not good for the world. So it is not just for us that we are preserving Hindutva, we are preserving Hindutva because this sense of tolerance and respect and let everybody bloom will not happen unless Hindu thought is there. That is the reason Modi is again and again called to bring in peace. It's not possible because the people who call for peace are actually themselves out to create some kind of falsehood of thinking of falsehood that they are superior. This sense of superiority and respect for others is what will change the world, what will save the nature. That is why I need to preserve Hindutva. And Sabhapati ji is very good at economics. I'll just say that our economics is different because we don't believe in just artha and kama. We also believe that artha and kama have to be gone through with dharma so we can reach moksha. So this is the difference between our economic thinking and the global economic thinking. With this I'll close my remarks and ask Kanakji to take over.
Thank you.
We'll take question after that.
In fact, what you mentioned, the last point is very, very important. You know, in India we have this concept called dharma, dharmic economics. Even though we may not realize it, in Tirukural there is a separate chapter on how to earn wealth, porul sayal vagai. In fact, in different languages it is there. One of the Tirukural say, Araneenum inbamameenum tiranarindhu teedindri vanda porul. If you earn wealth through dharmic means, proper means, it will give you satisfaction as well as aram, dharmam. So this concept is there only in Bharat. And here I have to mention that this Hindutva is not just a philosophy, not an earlier concept. It is there right in front of us, even though we may not be able to realize it every time. In fact, respect for my motherland, even though I belong to Sangha family, increased 1,000 times after I started making field studies. You know, even today, India, Bharat is what is today is because of our Hindutva background. Whether you take savings, whether you take finance, fund mobilization for entrepreneurial activities, whether you take entrepreneurship, whether you take any other activity in India relating to economics, business, society, all are influenced by our Hindu belief systems and faith. You know, India is one of the highest saving nations in the world. Even this year, last year it was 29%. For the last more than 10 years, it always used to be more than 30% of our GDP. Why? Western nations only 2%, 3% of their GDP. Because every father, every mother in India feels that it is her duty to save as much money as possible so that children will get better education. Or they will do start some entrepreneurial activity for the future generation. So this is the reason why savings are high. It is not just Indians in India alone save. Wherever our people go, if you see the last 15 years of World Investment Report, it says Indian NRIs are the people who are sending the largest sum of money to their home country. It is not Chinese. It is not Mexicans. Last year it exceeded $100 billion. Can you believe it? $1 billion is about 8,300 crores. So this is how even today our Hindu faith, our Hindu belief systems, our Hindu traditions are protecting us. And for the last 30 years, we have been taking up studies in different parts of Bharat. I would say that during the last 70 years, 60, 70 years, all our economic development is largely, mainly because of our Hindutva in practice, Hindu belief systems. So if we see the entrepreneurship, I was mentioning even yesterday.
Just to complement his view, many old people in my age will remember we were derogatorily called the Hindu rate of growth. Actually, it was Nehruvian rate of growth.
Yes.
Because the mixed socialist disastrous policy resulted in a growth rate of 2 to 3%. As soon as liberalization came, we saw the genius of Hindu. That is when the Hindu rate of growth actually shone to 8%, 9%.
Yes, you are right. But from the beginning, since we got independence, I would normally say, when we started studying, we came to realize, even in Tamil Nadu, the actual seeds of entrepreneurship were sown in the 1950s itself, during the Nehru period. So when we were discussing with people, our people never realized when we got political independence, they got full freedom, but they felt that they got economic freedom also. So without worrying about the government, they started doing something. So if you take Tamil Nadu, for example, the seeds of entrepreneurial development started in the late 1950s and 60s. And Tamil Nadu is one of the economically advanced countries, particularly Western Tamil Nadu. If you take, it contributes about 50% to Tamil Nadu GDP. We have about 12, 13 clusters in Western Tamil Nadu. Coimbatore, for example, contributing more than 1 lakh, 1.25 lakh crores annually to the GDP. Tirupur contributes about 75,000 crores to GDP. So all these towns, local business centers, industrial centers, they contribute.
And forget NBFC, chit fund.
Yes.
That is Tamil Nadu's contribution to small scale businesses, loans and all that. That is, chit fund is the, actually, they
It's a
have been reserved
mechanism.
by Tamil Nadu.
It's
And
a mechanism.
That is the first NFBC, as they call it, non-banking NBFC that we see today. And they were banned actually.
Yes.
But still it flourished.
Chit fund, I don't have time, I would have explained otherwise. Chit fund is not a financial mechanism alone. It's a socio-cultural mechanism. Once in a month or once in 2 months, people assemble. And this is not just for economic purposes, even though the main reason for all of them joining is for saving funds. But they make it as a socio-cultural program. How? Every month, they will go to every other person's home. So monthly they will go there, they will have a feast. So it's not just economic activity. They will connect society and culture. And there are interesting stories about how this chit fund culture has played a very important role, as Ratanji mentioned, in South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu. But apart from that, we should also know our local societies, local communities, they have evolved their own funding mechanisms. For example, in southern Tamil Nadu, a particular community called Nadars, which is a very powerful trading community, they developed a mechanism called Mahamai. Mahamai means wherever they settle down, or even their own villages, for every 1 rupee, they contributed some 10 paise as saving. Because in those days, they were Palmyra toddy tappers. They did not have much money. So they wanted to mobilize funds. They developed this mechanism. They go in front of the Amman temple, because Amman is their deity, Durga, Kali temple. So they take a vow and then they contribute this fund. And that is how they've evolved themselves into a business community. And today they are one of the largest business communities in South India. And one of the most successful banks in India, Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank, was promoted by them. And there is another interesting story. It will take time. Till about 5 years back, Tamil Nadu Mercantile capital was just 28 lakhs. But how much was the reserve? reserve. Normally, I'm a finance teacher, we will say, if you have 1 crore capital, you can have 1 crore reserve. If possible, 2 crore reserve. That is theory. But in India, in Bharat, it is not the case. In this particular case, 28 lakh capital, but reserve fund was 150 crores. That means even if the company starts earning losses from next year onwards, for another 300, 400 years, the company can survive. So that is the mindset of our people, and that is how Hindutva is being practiced in business and economic activities. This we have to understand, particularly the youngsters should know. Hindutva is not just a philosophy, it is the very soul of our life. Not just social life, not just cultural life, it is the very soul of our economic life. This is what differentiates Bharatiya economy from the rest of the economies in the world. This is very, very important.
In fact, one thing that we must note is that the institution of family is one of the strongest pillars of Hindutva and of our society. Outside Bharat, family institutions are crumbling, that is why society is crumbling. We are surviving because society, our families are surviving. The entire attack on institution, marriage and family is to destroy the society. I think that lecture was taken already yesterday, but it touched me because that is part of Hindu culture. The reason why we survived in COVID because elders were part of the family.
Yes.
Where the elders became part of government, they died. Because the youth who was to save them, volunteers, they ran away. So that is the importance of family.
Yes. When Ratanji says family, we have seen that in all our studies. Women, mothers and sisters, they play a very, very important role, critical role. Grandmothers also play a very critical role in all the Indian economic and business activities. This is also one that we have to understand. Anyhow, we have to go for questions, but before that, I want to mention one point. Here, unfortunately, in Tamil Nadu, we have political leaders. They are in power. They are in power. A dynast, who became the deputy chief minister only because of his family. He says that he is going to treat Sanatana Dharma like malaria, dengue. So we have to eliminate it. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. And there is
destroy malaria and dengue, you need strong body.
Yes.
They are not strong enough to destroy the body of Hinduism.
And in this Dravidian narrative, Ratanji, they have created an ecosystem where everything came only because of the British. This is highly unfortunate.
No, in fact, DK came because of British.
Yes,
because
DK.
They picked up the story of iron invasion theory from British, and that is how DK was born, that is how DMK was born. So very basis of their existence is British.
Yes, DK is the new version of colonialism. So we have a speaker of the assembly. It's highly unfortunate. He goes to colleges and universities, and wherever he goes, he says that British, particularly the missionaries, Christian missionaries, gave education. How unfortunate. This is the land of, sages and saints, Thiruvalluvar, Kambar, Avayar. This is the land which produced Sangam literature.
If you read Dharampal, he talks about the education system in Tamil Nadu and West Bengal.
Yes.
And Tamil Nadu, the beautiful tree, and Tamil Nadu was the biggest center of learning. And
yes.
Majority, 70% of the students were OBCs and SC, ST. Yes. They were not Brahmins. So even that story is false. Your Shola king itself, they are also OBCs so-called. So it's all false story, but we'll stick to our topic.
Yes,
so
yes.
We'll open it to the audience because I have to know how you look at Hindutva from Tamil Nadu perspective, yes. From being, Tamilians and we North Indians trying to impose our Hinduism on you and all that. So
yes,
I look
please.
South Indian, but I'm North Indian.
No, we are all Indians from the north and south, east and west.
Please, floor is open. You can ask questions. Please be brief. Whoever wants to speak or ask questions, be brief, because as I said, I have written 1500 pages of RSS philosophy, but I'm trying to put it in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So definitely I missed out many things, but then surely you can please add something, but be very brief.
I just want to add one thing regarding this economic topic we are talking about. We are talking about crowdfunding today. The crowdfunding is nothing. It has been in existence since Hindutva was there, I apparently believe, because in the weddings in South, especially in Tamil Nadu, we have something as Moi Elutharathu. This is crowdfunding in basic philosophy of Hindutva.
Yes.
This has started a long time
In
back.
our villages, when marriage happens, even UP, he will, he will tell you, we have this system of people putting in grains in the house. They'll bring milk to the house, they'll bring grains to the house, they'll put 2 rupees. Now, of course, 2 rupees not, but even during childhood, they used to put 2 rupees. All that was to fund the marriage of that particular family.
Exactly, that's what
there
I'm
here
talking
also.
Must be there in UP also. So
It is there everywhere.
So this, with new terminologies, we are talking about new theories which has been in existence in Hindutva.
Well, if they can rename pranayam, they can rename your crowdfunding. No, great.
Okay.
Yes, I think first question is always difficult. Yeah.
Arun?
Can you, we have recently seen the RSS name being bandied about not by, let's say, Pannoon, Gurupatwan Singh Pannoon and all the others guys, right? RSS seems to be the common whipping boy in a sense. How do you see that, and do you see a gradual, over the last 10 years, a gradual acceptance of the term Hindutva in a more benign manner in the West, or do you
Two
still
different
see
questions.
two different questions?
So let us
Yes.
do first question.
Okay,
first.
fine.
Actually, it is, when I talking to the person who brought me in, he didn't know anything about Sikh religion. He didn't know about Punjab. So to answer a question will be a little bit difficult, but I still try to explain. My bhabhi is a Sardar. That is my elder sister's wife is a Sardar, Sikh. We are not. My cousin married to a Sikh woman. His son also married to a Sikh woman. So till this generation, marriages in Sikhs and Hindus are not different. They are at the same family. In fact, the first son of the family used to be dedicated to the gurus, Sikhs, to be part of the family, to be part of Sikhi tradition, because we needed martial people who would fight, because Khalsa was an army. So that dedication used to be there to give the first son to Sikhi. So secondly, I've written a book on Guru Nanak Dev, and where I mentioned that Guru Nanak Dev's teachings come from Vedanta. They don't come from Quran or from Bible. Guru Nanak Ji knew about Islam. He went to Makkah. He had debates there. But he has never used Muhammad or Quran anywhere in his Guru Granth Sahib or in his dealings. He has talked about Sufis. So this is a branch out of the Vedic tradition of Hindu Dharma. That is Sikhi. It became martialist when the 10th Guru Gobind Singh Ji decided to, he knew that there is no other way but to wage war. So he created a Khalsa army. That is when Panch Piyaras from 5 corners of Bharat were baptized and they became Khalsa. Khalsa is purest form of Sikhi. Till that time, there was no compulsion of wearing a kada or pagdi or all that, nor not cutting your hair, etc. It became after Guru Gobind Singh. So that is the Khalsa army. So we should not mix Khalsa with Sikhi. To say that we are separate from Hindu is not correct. Yet the religion is different, but coming from the same branch. As I said, every family in Punjab would have relations or family members in the Sikh community also. Now coming to more serious issue, why Pannu and all are afraid? Because during last separatist terrorism of 1980s, the effort was to create a wedge between Sikhs and Hindus. So they would selectively choose Hindus to kill them, or as we call Monas. We call Keshdhari and Monas. Monas who don't keep hair, and Keshdhari have Kesh. So that is, now he is a Keshdhari actually, sitting there, not wearing pagdi of course. So this Keshdhari, so they would go in a bus, but send out the, take out the Monas or Hindus, and they would just fire them, kill them. So this went on trains and all. So the idea was to create a wedge, but RSS continuously waged a ideological war, saying that we are not separate, we shall not be divided like we were divided in 47, and we are same people. So this philosophy continuously explaining Sikhi to people, how we are one, how our roots are same, is something that Khalistan didn't enjoy. Who is this MP? Tiwari ji. Manish Tiwari. Once I was talking to him, I gave my book to him, and he is from Punjab, and he has worked closely with RSS people also. He said during one of the track to diplomacy talks, the Pakistani said, we did not succeed in Punjab because we could not divide Hindus and Sikhs. That is the reason we lost. Now we will not lose. So what they did from 1990 onwards, they created a huge intellectual base to somehow separate Sikhi from Vedic roots. So meanings of the scriptures are slightly modified. So where Guru Nanak says that the temples were destroyed and mosques were built, it has been replaced very innocently. Mosques replaced temples. It's very simple. There is no blood in that. There is no destruction in that. Similarly, Dasham Granth, which is written by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he did not add Dasham Granth into Guru Granth Sahib. He said that is done. I'll keep my Granth separate. That is called Dasham Granth. That is slowly taken out of the Sikh religiosity. It is not narrated. It is not taken out during processions. Only Patan Sahib is the original Dasham Granth, where Guru Gobind Singh was born. Even everywhere else, some chapters have been removed. Typically, Vichittar Natak, where Guru Gobind Singh sings praises of goddess Durga. Those parts have been removed. People don't know, people don't talk because people don't want any kind of clash. So idea of all this 30 has been to somehow reduce the base of connect of Hindu Dharma with Sikhi and somehow promote Islam as something unique, monotheism. But monotheism of Islam and monotheism of Sikhi is very different. Monotheism, Sikhi doesn't want to kill others who don't believe in monotheism or, not having a face of the God. But what has happened recently when the movie on Guru Nanak Dev was made, some extremists stopped it saying Guru Nanak ko aap dikhaiye, you cannot show Guru Nanak. But actually that is not true. What Guru Nanak Dev said was typically Nirakar Bhagwan. But they said no, you can't even show Guru. Although all those paintings are there in every Gurudwara, every place. So there has been strong effort to somehow reduce the connect with the Hindus. And of course, I'm very sorry to say that a new generation of Sikhs don't identify themselves as Hindus. So that's a big victory for the separatists. And that is the reason they hate RSS, because RSS, despite accepting that Sikh is a separate religion, they say we are united, we are from the same family and we are family. So for example, that is the reason I gave example of my family. This is true of all the Punjabis. So this is the root cause of their being angry about RSS. They believe as long as RSS, BJP is there, they cannot break this totally, the Sikh and Hindu. I should not even say unity, it's a family. I can't even say you need unity, but the effort to separate them is very strong now. Even some of the bhajans are not sung. What is called, they do kirtan, they have removed some of the dohas which worship Krishna or Rama. In some places they don't read last few pages of Guru Granth Sahib because it praises Ram and Krishna. That is the kind of poison that is being spread.
But everywhere in their songs, Krishna, Rama.
You say, but when you go to those ragis, they have been instructed not to sing ragas about Krishna and Ram. If there are Hindus in the assembly, they will sing. Otherwise, they will avoid. That is slowly how this poison being spread. And unfortunately, I said Sikh youth today doesn't feel so connected to Hindus. I cannot share some of the stories where the youth feel totally alien to the Hindus today, and even in Punjab, which was not happening in 80s, 90s. So its situation now is much more difficult than it was in those times. Sikhs about 50, 60, they are still believe they are part of Hindu society, but the younger lot, because of the 30 years of indoctrination, the way they have modified the narrative of Sikh religion, this is happening.
Sir, do you see the grand Hindu Sanatani movement being reduced to mere celebration of electoral victories?
Why do you say so?
The
I don't even want to answer that.
For the last 10 years, much could have been done, and there are things which haven't been done.
Try to understand this. For hundreds of years, Hindus have been treated as second-class citizen. After independence also, we have been treated as second-class citizen in the guise of saying, you're a good boy. So you must behave. That other boys are living mischievous, let him play the mischief, but you are a good boy. So we must always accept, we must always tolerate, we must always take anything that comes to us, including constitution, what has been done. I will not get into details, we know that. So now after 2014, suddenly Hindus, that the resentment that was building, or the work of RSS that was trying to remind Hindus of their greatness, of their religion, of their civilization, has flowered now. 2014 saw the first result in the way of a complete majority win for a so-called Hindu party, though it's of course doing more for Muslims than anybody else. But it's a Hindu party, all said and done. Now that pent-up anger is what is coming up. So it's not that we celebrate BJP's victory and believe that this is Hindutva. That is not true. We know that civilizational battle is very different from what a political party can do. So until we wake up as a civilization, that see, 2014 was a landmark when that we saw the display of that Hinduness. That we saw the PM going to temple, we saw PM inaugurating a temple, etc., renovating, reinventing those cities and towns, which brought that strong sense of pride in us that, okay, we are a Hindu civilization. That awakening is a result of Mr. Modi being there, the PM. As a political party, there are some compulsions which RSS or you or me don't have. So unless we really reform the society, we really understand the new way of what Hindu society could be, this could be temporary phase. It is not necessary that you will keep on winning. In 10 years, maybe the number of seats that are influenced by one particular community will increase. So at that time, a so-called Hindu party or party which at least respects Hindus, doesn't treat them as goons, at least that party will have to fight only 370 seats to get the majority. You get the point. So Hindus also have to realize that BJP may not be the best answer. It may not be the Hindu party going with orange, saffron flags everywhere, shouting everybody down, down and all that. But at least they don't kill Hindus. At least they will not go against Hindus. They will do something good for the Hindus while doing good for others also. In that sense, there is a huge change. But to believe that only electoral victory is Hindutva, I am sorry to say that RSS wouldn't work for 100 years, that was the case. To get Hindu to this level has taken 100 years. Or if I said 2014, 90 years. Imagine. So 1,000 years of slavery has taken us 99 years to bring Hindu to a level where they said, okay, this is my party, this is my nation, I own this nation, I am responsible for this nation, I must do good for the nation. That change in thinking about the country and their own duty for the country itself. When Modi ji says give up certain things, people give up. Why? That sense of ownership has come. That is the biggest change that you see. For small matters, you should not look at petty things or we have not done this, we have not done that. But what has been achieved? In 10 years, he has taken a 90 years backlog of hard work by RSS and others, all great saints and sadhus. But before that, there is a huge backlog. So it will take time.
Namaskaram, sir. This Khalistan is an imaginary land, actually. It is not an original thing. So we should not use in our discourses so that the Sikhs is associated with the Khalistan and then they're using that for their advantages. So I feel we should not use this word in our thing. We should call them a terrorist, actually.
See, we are fighting an ideological battle. Then you should not call communists communists because communists are not communists anymore, right? But this is the ideology which you are fighting, which is we are separatist ideology you are talking of. Yeah. We will not call it Sikhistan because Sikhistan is wrong. There can be no separate Sikh from Hindus. As long as Hindus are there, Sikhs are there. As long as Sikhs are there, Hindus are there. But to say Khalistan, if they are saying Khalistan, we want some place only for Khalistanis, not even Sikhs, because all the Sikhs don't believe in that. Then they should have Lahore, they should have major part of Ranjit Singh's territory was Pakistan. So let's have it. Or they can build a Khalistan in Canada, no problem. It can be built anywhere. But you're fighting a ideology of war, you cannot shy away from words. You have to fight terms with terms, you have to fight words with words. It's like, I will not name my husband, but he is my husband. ऐसा नहीं चलता है ना. है तो है. So that is why we have to name the enemy. Just like we name communists, we name Dravidist, not Dravids, because Dravid is the worst used by Shankaracharya. Right? So you know all that, so I'll not get into that.
Is there any serious difference between RSS and BJP? Or RSS will
They were never one. But I mean, BJP, RSS are two different entities. As long as we see BJP and RSS separate, you will have very clear thinking. When you start mixing up BJP, RSS, then you have a lot of confusion. It's a cultural organization. It works in every field. Some of its people also work in BJP. RSS is a field force of at least 1 crore people, I would say. Out of which how many people are BJP? Active people? 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 10 lakhs? Nothing. So that is why, as Guruji used to say, the work outside politics is much more bigger than in politics. When we think politics is everything to do with the society, as long as politics is there, nothing else is required to be done, that's not wrong. Politics is a very important part of power. It is also a very important of change, power, tool of change. But change comes from within. The societies that survived Islamic invasion, there was no RSS. It is that Hindutva that saved them. The way they ran their villages, the way they ran their pathshalas, the way they ran their schools and industries, very decentralized way, that is what is the strength of the society. When we attack that the way British did, then that is how they actually reduce our strength. So we have to rebuild that strength. Parties will come and go. Tamil Nadu surviving in religiously, despite being DK trying to call us malaria and dengue. You don't stop going to temples. Despite they destroying many temples, Hinduism is not going to die down. But they are trying to do it, that we have to understand.
Their own family members are seriously going to.
But see, that is problematic actually, till we realize that this show of going to temple doesn't make you Hindu. I always say that, see, religion can be personal affair. Hindu dharma and Hindu as a society cannot be personal affair. That is to be understood.
Namaskar. Whenever we discuss about Hindutva, it is always, we are defensive. It's seen as a negative thing, like Oxford says that it is imposition of hegemony by the Hindus over others, or fascism or Nazism, and particularly in Tamil Nadu, it's Brahminical supremacy and these type of words. All our discussions, we are defensive. Why can't we be in a position to say this is what? Because we say it's a way of life and Supreme Court definitions, and
Sir,
to the next generation.
Sir, first 15 minutes of my discourse only defined what is Hindutva. I didn't use any negative term. I did not defend it. Right? Did I defend? I just stated facts.
Correct.
Right?
But when the term...
when somebody attacks, you have to defend.
Exactly.
Now, why we don't attack? My question is, what are we doing here? In Tamil Nadu, you pray to our Kartik Bhagwan, right?
Correct.
But you don't pray, you don't like his younger brother Ganesha. You don't like Shiva, his father. Is it rational?
Absolutely not.
So do attack on their terms. No, why do you want to attack on sensitize or whatever? In your own Tamil, that's the biggest fallacy. Your own Tamil Sangam talks about Indra and Garuda and various, Rudra and various gods. But you say, no, Tamil is different. They don't respect Chola because he built Brihadeshwara temple. Is it logical? So you in Tamil Nadu have to answer in their language. It doesn't. So we have so many aspects of Hindu, but do you want to get bogged down by irrational people? We have to respond in their way. We have to show that actually what Periyar said was all, BS. Because he's totally relying on colonial narrative. What is his narrative? What is DK's narrative? So when you ask me to define Hindutva, I simply made some statements, right? To build on that, you have to look at what is happening in Tamil Nadu, for example. What is happening in Tamil Nadu is not happening in Maharashtra. So each area, each place, you have to find your own local idioms to fight them.
Captain G, you used Oxford, this Encyclopedia Britannica, they recruited a group of scholars about 30 years back. Encyclopedia Britannica, and they have come out with a long report you can go through. It says, its members are not from Hindu community alone, Hindu Dharma alone. They are Christians and from other religious backgrounds. It says Hinduism is the most tolerant religion in the world, and it explains. So you please see Encyclopedia.
In my own book, I have actually a chapter in Evolution of RSS book, full chapter of expanding scope of Hindutva. So Hindutva is not static. The definition of Hindu is expanding every time. So you can read that chapter and you will find that I have answered to that also. Last question, time is up. Yes, there are two.
We are running really short of time.
Yeah. We can talk outside.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Mr. Paddu Govindaraj to felicitate both the speakers, please. Next up, we have Pradeep Bhandari, who has just come in on demography and destiny.
Okay, I'm back up again. That is the advantage or disadvantage of being a curator. Every time somebody is slightly delayed, they tell me to go on the stage and fill the time. So Pradeep is going to talk about a very, very important topic which all of us need to understand, which is demography is destiny. Right now, we are at a point where we think that just because we are in a room like this full of like-minded people, we feel that we are safe. We are safe in our houses. We are safe in our neighborhoods. We are safe in our cities. But it's all an illusion. The Hindus of Kashmir also thought they were safe in 1990s. The Hindus of Bangladesh also thought that they were safe like less than 2 months ago. But as demography changes, as you become a minority in your own place, in your own city, in your own state, in your own country, you realize that you're always in danger and the situation can explode any point of time. And this is happening. This is happening in many, many, many places in Bharat already, in many districts. Even in Tamil Nadu, demography of some districts is rapidly changing. In Kerala, it's already changed. In Punjab, it's changed in another direction. But the threats are everywhere until we realize that demography is such a ticking time bomb. We are never going to be fully aware of how big the threat is, which is why the next session is really important. There he is, the man of the moment. And I present before you Pradeep Bhandari, who is a very energetic speaker. He is also the official spokesperson for the BJP, by the way. He's a pollster, he's a journalist, he plays many roles. And I owe him homemade ice cream.
Check 1 2 check. Thank you. Presentation LED. Jagannath ji, how can I? You will move it. Okay. Namaskar and thank you so much for being here. And extremely sorry for being a bit late. And Chef Ali Tai was absolutely correct. I've been waiting to have that homemade ice cream from the past 1 year. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen. Over the last 9 years, I have spent a significant time traveling across the length and the breadth of the country. And over the last 9 years, after speaking to multitude of people across different demographies and geographies, I have come to one conclusion, and this conclusion is very clear. Earlier, when I used to present this topic, I used to call it that the destiny of any nation is demography. Then when I presented at the Pondi Lit Fest, I said that democracy's destiny is demography. But now when I was traveling to Coimbatore and I was thinking aloud myself, I said it's just not about democracy's destiny, it is liberal democracy's destiny is demography. So all the liberal values of the Constitution of India, my friend Shantanu is here, he just had a case on him by one of the parties, and it was Samajwadi Party, so it's very important to talk about liberal values and free speech, because he was practicing his right of free speech in one of the television debates. So all these liberal values of Constitution of India, whether it is secularism, whether it is free speech, I conclude that if we want to be a superpower, which we definitely will be, but a potent challenge in front of us in the next 2 decades to come, as we become a rich nation, will be how do we address this rapidly changing demography? And why does it worry me? Because when I study the liberal trends in different pockets of India where the demography is skewed, I worry because places where the Hindus are in minority, we see, and I will prove this in presentation, that how all your liberal values, whether it is constitutionalism, secularism, liberalism, free speech, all come under a virtual threat. And in fact, your democracy comes under a veto where work does not matter, religiosity plays a very important role. So when I divide this country into two parts while studying it, not like Mr. Rahul Gandhi thinks of dividing it, but only from the perspective of studying it, that there are pockets in this country where the Hindus are in minority, and in fact there are pockets where the Hindu population is 50%, 55%. What I will show you in the presentation, that all your liberal values are challenged in those pockets. And this is what the idea is, that if you want to continue to be a liberal democracy, we have to look at the challenge of demography, which is very, very dangerous. Let us move forward to my first slide. So if you look at this very important trend, and I've got a paper also in front of me. This is the first paper which studies the change in religious composition across districts in India. And this is a paper, it's a beautiful paper by Shamika Ravi and others. You should read it because this is the first study in the last 2 decades on how religious population is changing. And what I conclude here coincidentally matches with the census data which they have studied. And this is based on my primary data collection in the last 9 years across the length and the breadth of country. So you observe one part, that the Muslim population growth in this country is happening at the 46.4% faster rate than the Hindu population growth. So census data tells you that the average population growth has been roughly around 18%. The Hindu population growth has been roughly around 16 to 17%, whereas the minority population growth, in particular the Muslim population growth, has been at a 24%. So yes, the Hindus are in majority, but what is happening at an unprecedented rate in the last 2 decades in particular, it has been happening in the from the 1960s, but the change has become rapid since the early 2000s, is that the Muslim population growth is happening at a 46.4% more than the Hindu population growth. Which means there are multiple districts in this country which are shifting from being Hindu majority districts to being Hindu minority districts. And there are multiple districts in this country where pure vote is happening based on religion when the Muslim population crosses a threshold of 25%. So it's just not about a Hindu majority, it is about crossing that threshold of 25%, which I will prove here. And look at this data. There is a place called Dhubri in Assam. In 2001, it was 70%, now it has become 79%. Murshidabad is 61%, now it has become 66%, and as I speak, it is more than 70%. The trend which I am trying to tell you, which is very important, I'll move to the next slide here, but you need to understand, it is not about the Muslim population being the majority. What happens is, and this is what you need to study very, very importantly, that as the minority population in any district in the country, any district in this country, I'll give you 2 data points which is very important. Imagine there are 2 districts. A district A, where the Hindu population is 80% plus, say around 85%. Another district where the Hindu population is 50-55%. Now ideally both of them are Hindu majority. But what we see as a trend, that in a district where the Hindu population is 85% or above, the Muslim population growth is roughly around 0.3, 0.4%. But where the Hindu population is say 50-55% on the borderline majority, the Muslim population growth is faster than the Hindu population growth, and 9 out of 10 instances that district has turned into a Muslim majority district. So it is a very, not a dangerous trend, but it's a very challenging trend, because your entire, all those areas, religiosity plays a very important role. So if you study in Murshidabad, not a single minority, because the Hindus are there in minority, not a single minority has been voted to power in Murshidabad in the last 3 to 4 decades. And the trend has been similar in Dhubri. So all those who speak about minority rights, which the constitution guarantees us, when I study about that at the district level, what I ask myself and what I want to throw as a question in front of you, why is it that places where the religiosity changes and changes at a disproportionate rate, the minority in that place is unelectable? So the minority continues to enjoy rights in our democracy when the Hindus are in majority, because the Hindus shift their vote. But places where the Hindus become in minority, that minority becomes insignificant voice. But when the minority is not the Hindu, largely the Muslim minority, and it touches a threshold of 30%, it becomes a veto voice. It is a trend. When you study it at a district level, it is a very, very new trend. Not a new trend, I will say, but it's a trend which should alarm individuals, because that if you are a minority in that district, your right to free speech and right to be participative in the democratic process is taken away. You see globally, nations where demography has shifted in 5 decades, how have their entire social liberal values shifted? And this is why I tell you that we are right now in 2024. In the next 2 decades, many of us will be here, living, thriving. What as a nation we have to look at and think about, this is a very, very important. So you see these trends which I am telling you. Kishanganj has not elected a single Hindu MP in the last 40, 50 years. As I tell you, Malappuram in Kerala has not elected a Hindu MP in the last 50 years. So why is it that when Hindus are in majority, they definitely vote on work? That is why governments in this country shift. I tell people that governments shift because Hindus are very democratic in their process, and they tend to shift their vote because of work and many other issues. But why is it that in districts where you study, even if I am a minority in that district, say Murshidabad, my work does not matter, but only my religion matters? So are we not looking at it as a challenge and a threat on our democratic liberal principles, particularly in these districts and towns where the Hindus become minority? My worry is not just that. My worry as an individual who believes in the liberal constitutional process of our democracy and who wants to continue to see India as a liberal, thriving democracy, is that there is a virtual veto at 30%. This is very, very important. There is an absolute veto at 42%, and there is a politically crucial veto at 16%. Now I tell you the difference between these three. When the population touches 16%, till 16%, I would say it's not a significant voting bloc. As it crosses 16%, this is what I have studied and concluded, and this is what the census data also reflects. The study on the census data, you should go through this paper. And all of what I'm speaking is, none of it is any propaganda. I'm just telling you data and facts. As it crosses 16%, look at this point. The time it takes to reach from 0 to 16% is 5 times more than the time it takes to reach from 16% to 30%, and is lesser than from 30 to 42, which means that if it touches 16%, there is all likelihood it will touch 30%. And as it touches 30%, the time it takes to reach from 16 to 30, the time to reach from 30 to 40 is even lesser. And when it touches 30, the 30 votes 90% based on only religiosity. As of right now, it is happening. So which means that if I am a minority, even if I am a majority in that place, and let's say I stand for the principles of Prabhu Shri Ram and say Jai Shri Ram, the 30% will consider it as a no-go area and will vote a candidate 9 out of 10 times in a place who does not reside that. But my country allows me to speak that, even though I have worked. This is very, very alarming. Why do I say alarming? because my vote or my democracy starts behaving on the matter and in the manner of religiosity, not on the manner of democratic values. This is about the politics of it. So there is a political veto which is happening at lot of pockets. Remember, what did Jinnah say before independence? Jinnah was an educated man. He was a very erudite lawyer. He understood this number business very, very well. This is why before independence his entire focus was on consolidating these pockets. He was not a fool. He was an evil erudite man. The word I use is evil erudite man. And because of him, we were partitioned. Obviously because of also mistakes of our leaders at that time. But if we don't acknowledge this, all democracies which have not been able to tackle this challenge, their liberal values have come under threat. Globally, if I'm not wrong, the demography of Lebanon 50 years back was different from what it is now. Let us move forward. Look at this trend. And this is where I tell you the worrying part is. The larger trend which I'm telling you, and this is very important, this is a phenomena called as the pocket phenomena. What is the pocket phenomena? The pocket phenomena, and I will explain this at the border areas and also at other pockets. Let me take this part of Simanchal and the larger part of certain districts in Bihar. So Simanchal is a place, is an area which surrounds certain districts. In Bihar, it is Kishanganj and other districts. It comes near Bengal and Bihar. What happens here, in 50 years, the 50-50 population which I proved you before the slide, now has become 68% population. Now all your investigative agencies are concluding that these centers have also become challenges to law and order. If you study the reports from Simanchal in the last 10 to 15 years, you will see instances of bomb-making factories coming up in parts of Malda, Murshidabad also. You will see instances of individuals with radical ideologies being caught by our investigative agency. And if you study the development parameter of these places, these development parameters fall below the national average. So my question is, despite the development parameters falling below the national average, if these areas continue to vote political parties which only focus on religiosity, then are we not looking at, in the next 2 to 3 decades, certain pockets which might become law and order challenges to us as they completely become skewed in our demography? And why can it be a national security challenge? I move to my next slide. This is what I have explained to all of you. And I'll tell you another point. Why is it a national security challenge? Because generally, borders are areas which are considered to be first bulwark of any nation and are considered to be the development frontiers. But my worry is that many places where the demography is shifting and changing are border areas. And what is happening as a phenomena in border areas, I will tell you. Imagine that there is a village which is in the center, which is a Hindu majority village. It is surrounded by villages which are 50-50% Hindu Muslim population or minority population, or it is surrounded by villages which are Hindu minority villages. What tends to happen, look at this, very important. Imagine this is the first village, it is surrounded by a circumference of Hindu minority village. This village, which is in the center, the Hindus, have you seen a trend, start to migrate and move away from this village and try to locate themselves to other pockets. And this entire pocket becomes a Hindu minority pocket. So it does not happen that the center, which is Hindu majority, has a ripple effect on the neighboring smaller villages which might be Hindu minority. Even though the center village, which is Hindu majority, might be large in terms of the quantity or the population of Hindus, but when it is surrounded by a circumference of Hindu minority villages, the center, which is a Hindu majority village, generally has seen a trend of Hindus moving away from that place and translocating themselves to other areas, and that entire pocket becomes a Hindu minority pocket. And this is also happening in many villages in the border areas. This is a challenging threat because if you remember, in Jharkhand there was this guy and this young man called Rupesh Pandey who lost his life when during Saraswati Puja there was instances of stone pelting and he was attacked. Few days back in Bharart, a young man called Gopal Mishra was lynched and attacked by a mob, and which took the rule of law in its own hand. If you study the demography of Bharart, it, if I'm not wrong, is around 30% minority population. Why is it that in a Hindu majority country, when any religious procession of the Hindus pass from an area which I call demography tilted, why are they termed as sensitive? Why is it termed as, why do you need to deploy additional law and order machinery in those areas? These are all small sparks which should make you aware and should have a larger discourse on how will we tackle our country in the years to come when demography shifts. Because, mind you, it's not the quantity of population which matters. It is the rate of growth of population which matters. And the rate of growth of population, irrespective of anything, of the Hindu community, I'll give you another data point. This is a very interesting data point. When more than 600 districts were studied, and you should know that, 80% districts were found to see a depreciating Hindu population, and 74% of the districts were seen to have appreciating minority population, in particular Muslim population. This is not what I am telling you. This is the study from the census data which is suggesting to you. And this is how places of North 24 Parganas, South 24 Parganas have become Muslim majority places. And these places have now had virtual veto on deciding the entire electoral fate of Bengal. This is worrying trend, ladies and gentlemen, because your culture, your liberal values, all can come under question if we don't know how will we tackle it. Because at the end of the day, let us admit that our constitutional values are continued to be protected because we are a Hindu majority nation. Hindus are tolerant, Hindus are democratic, Hindus believe in constitution principle. This is why we've practiced it. Look around yourself as a nation and see what has happened to places where religiosity has dominated. I worry. I don't have any answer. We need to have a larger discourse on it as a nation. Let's move forward. This is what I was telling you. When demography shifts and tilts, your cultural values come under threat. So till now in the presentation I have proved you that there are pockets which are formed near the border areas. These pockets where the Hindu village, even if it's a majority and it is surrounded by minority Hindu villages, the Hindu majority village becomes a Hindu minority village and the entire pocket becomes a minority dominated pocket. A. B. That 80% districts are seeing a Hindu population depreciating. C. 74% of the districts are seeing a minority population appreciating. D. All the liberal constitutional values come under question because there is a virtual veto when the population of minority touches a 30-35%. E. I have proven you that when the population of minority, the time that it takes to move from 0 to 16% is more vis-a-vis 16 to 30 and is further less in 30 to 42, which means that when it touches a 20% mark, it will touch a 40% mark in the next 3 to 4 decades. Because the population rate of growth is skewed. And this is where I have enlisted the Durga Puja violence in Bengal. Why is it happening in places where demography is tilted? I tell you what I said in the initial part of my presentation. Your cultural values, your constitutional values to practice your faith comes under challenge. B. Ram Navami violence has been seen in areas in Bengal which are again demographically skewed. So my right to faith comes under question when my demography is getting tilted. So how will we tackle as a nation those pockets where our demography will be tilted? That is a question. And as I told you, this is very, very important, that the Hindu population is declining at a rate of 0.9 percentage, and the minority population is increasing at a rate of 1.4 percentage in Bengal, and in the north, in Assam, it is increasing at a rate of 1.77 percentage. This is where, when the Chief Minister of Assam, Himanta Biswa Sarma, puts forward that there is a possibility for Assam to become a Muslim majority state, he's not saying it as a propaganda, he's telling you as a data point. And mind you, as I tell you, reiterate again, all these are border areas. What will we do? We talk about Bharatiyata. How will we tackle it? This is our real challenge. Because our economic growth can continue to grow at 7 to 8 to 9 to 10% when we continue to maintain the essential character of our constitutional, the Bharatiyata. Let's move forward. Look at the case of Karnataka. So I have proven you the liberal values are under threat. Now I tell you that law and order is under threat. I have proven you. And now I take a recent case of Karnataka which we've studied. If you look at it, and if you study Karnataka, the Muslim population growth of Karnataka is more than the Hindu population growth, which is fine. But now it is touched a double digit, which means that the rate of growth of the minority population happening in pockets in Karnataka is much, much more than the rate of decline of the Hindu population in Karnataka. But that is not the point. The point is, it is growing at a faster rate than it used to grow in the past. So when the Karnataka government takes back the cases of the Hubli rioters, it is not a coincidence. It is appealing to that virtual veto. So which means that, which is very important, that 22 towns in Karnataka now are seeing that, particularly in Uttar Kannada and places where the population of minority is touching 50% plus. So when you study demography, just don't look that you are 80%, 79.4%, and the second largest majority is less. You study your liberal democratic values at the district level. We need to really start the discourse on this and achieve a discourse which helps us protect our constitutional values. And shutdowns become normal. And another point I'll give you. What we have seen, I'll give you the case of Jharkhand. Jharkhand has seen villages where the infiltrators, this is acknowledged by the Jharkhand High Court in one of its order also, which we studied from districts. Santhal Pargana in Jharkhand, 4 decades back, was 40% plus tribal population, and the minority population, in particular the Muslim population, was mere 8.99%. Today, the minority population, if I'm not wrong, is touching a 20% bracket, around 18 to 20% in Santhal Pargana. And the tribal population, which was 40% plus, has now come down to less than 30%. And the Jharkhand High Court acknowledges in it one of its latest order. What will we do? And many of these illegal infiltrators who have come from the other areas, they start to marry tribal women because they cannot have rights to tribal resources as other community because it's protected by Santhal Pargana Act. By marrying tribal women change their cultural ethos, they become Muslim women, and the Muslim men get access to tribal resources, which is fine till the time they belong to the same country. But many of them have found to be illegally coming from across the border. And the Jharkhand High Court concludes, in fact, the Supreme Court in Sarvanand Sonowal's judgment says that illegal infiltration is equated to external aggression. But what we do as a nation, how will we move forward to tackling this threat? We really need a discourse, and this discourse should start coming from places like the Western Ghat Lit Fest. My worry is this. Let me move forward. These are instances which we have taken forward. Let's move forward. Yes. So this is what I was telling you about, that how the tribal population has jumped. And look at this. Now the tribal population is equated to the minority population in a place called as Santhal. which earlier could never have been imagined in 4 decades back. And then this puts a challenge on the tribal culture from that area. And look at how it changes the society. A place like Jamtara, you must have seen, the weekly offs shift from Sundays to Fridays. The style of prayer in schools changes. There is a place called Garwa where the minority had opposed that the style of prayer cannot be Namaste. The school administration bows down to the pressure. The style of prayer shift changes. Saraswati Puja Visarjan, we've looked at reports from multiple parts, how it comes under challenge. And then as I tell you, that the Hindus start leaving their homes. It is happening by some design, is what I intuitively feel. But data tells me that the demography is changing. And I worry because it is happening in the tribal pockets of India. Let's move forward. Yes. So this is a very interesting case. And this is where I tell you that this, if you have seen recently in Hyderabad, the Durga Mandir was also challenged and there was stone pelting at the Durga Mandir. But this is not an isolated incident. This place, Kangla Pari, again is a village where the Hindus are in minority and around 50-45% bracket. They were celebrating their Durga Puja and they were stopped to celebrate that. It's a very famous case if you Google and look at it. Again, I tell you, it is that bracket of 30-35% which is crossed and which crosses, your liberal constitutional values become a challenge. Let's move forward. This is how Assam will be projected by 2050. This was Assam in 1951. Now, Hindus were 73% and the projection is that they will be 48%. This is what the Assam Chief Minister had pointed out as a threat, not as a propaganda, but as a matter of fact that if the demography continues to grow in this manner, this is what will happen. So which means that out of 600 plus districts, what will we do on ensuring that the constitutional values, women's security, secularism, right to faith, right to preach, all of that is practiced in those double-digit districts where the minority population is more than the Hindu population, and maybe more than 100 districts where it touches 30% plus in the next 2 decades to come. We really need to think, because any democracy across the world, whether it is United States of America, any democracy, only democracies continue to be liberal democracy where they protect their basic ethos. And to protect their basic ethos, we need to protect our Bharatiyata. And to protect our Bharatiyata, we need to stop this design of purposely shifting demography of certain pockets in India. I am a constitutionalist and I want to ensure that the Constitution of India becomes supreme, and I put forward this question in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. Towards the end, if I have another slide to show, I think that's, yes. This is another part which Shefali ji and others keep speaking about. That's the larger discourse. I will not go towards that, of how many areas have seen, many temples across the country have non-Hindus governing those temples. That's a separate debate. But this is also what is happening. And majority of them, if you study, are also in place called Bengal. So ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my presentation, and all this presentation, this is what I've collected in the last 9 years and have come as trends, studying district level trends across the country. This beautiful paper studying the census data corroborates it. So all what I've concluded in the last 25 to 30 minutes here, my friend Tuhin is also here, who comes from Jharkhand and is a man who also speaks very, very vociferously about tribal rights in Jharkhand. I conclude the following, ladies and gentlemen, as the following points towards the end of my presentation. A, that the liberal constitutional values are coming under threat where the Hindus are in minority. what we as a nation will do in order to protect constitutional values there. B, that there are 80% districts in this country where the Hindu population is declining. The census data study backs it, and my study also, this is what I conclude as my study in the last 9 years, that there are 74% of the district where the minority population is increasing. 3, that the rate of growth of minority population is faster as it crosses the 16% bracket. D, there is a virtual veto where the vote happens on religiosity as the minority population touches the bracket of 30%. E, the Hindus, when they live in a village which is surrounded by Hindu minority villages, the Hindu majority village tends to become a Hindu minority village. This phenomena is seen more in border areas. And E, if this trend continues, you will see a lot of pockets in this country which will become Hindu minority pockets where liberal constitutional values can come under question. E, the latest case in point being that of Jharkhand, where the entire demography of Santhal has now shifted and changed, which is acknowledged by Jharkhand High Court. I appeal to all you young and experienced intellectuals to come with some thought process of what will be our way of looking at this changing demography in India. Because I conclude that if India wants to continue, and I'm extremely hopeful we will continue, to be a liberal, constitutional, secular democracy, we have to address the rapidly changing demography question. This is where I say towards the end, ladies and gentlemen, our destiny as a liberal democracy will be decided by our rapidly changing demography. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to hear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. This session was very precise and it was like a surgical strike. You landed, you came here, you spoke, and now you're getting back to your next flight. Thank you so much for making it. Ladies and gentlemen, next up we have, I would now request friend and brother Shri Prabhakaran IRS to felicitate Pradeep Bhandariji. Next up we have Unsung Heroes of Bharat by Srimati Manoshi Sinha ji and Sri Tuhin Sinha ji. Tuhin Sinha ji is also an official spokesperson of BJP and a celebrated writer. He is ranked among the top 10 English writers of this country. He's written about 14 books, and I'm told that some of his books have been sold out already. In fact, these are the last 2 copies available. Sidho Kanu, Birsa Munda's titles have been sold out completely. And Modi's Northeast Story, which we'll be launching today. Welcome you, sir.
कि सदियों तक चली हुई आजादी की इस जंग में किसी ने योगदान न दिया हो, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य यह है कि इनके त्याग, शौर्य और बलिदान की कहानियां नई पीढ़ी तक पहुंची ही नहीं। भगवान बिरसा मुंडा ने अंग्रेजों से न केवल राजनीतिक आजादी के लिए संघर्ष किया, बल्कि आदिवासियों के सामाजिक और आर्थिक अधिकारों के लिए भी लड़ाई लड़ी। वंचितों और शोषितों के अंधेरे से भरे जीवन में सूरज की तरह चमक बिखेरी।
Can you hear me? Yeah. Vanakkam, namaste, namaskar. The reason we played the video was to set the agenda. The session is about the unsung warriors of Bharat. And the video which features my book on the legend of Birsa Munda also aptly brings out the contribution of Prime Minister Modi in actually invoking these unsung heroes. Because somewhere in the last 7 decades or so, succeeding the independence, history, we approached history with a very colonial mindset. And that colonial mindset also reflected in the way we studied our freedom struggle. So one of the reasons why we need to study about these subaltern, unsung heroes is to dispel the notion that our freedom movement started with the formation of the Congress Party in 1885. Our freedom movement predates the formation of the Congress Party by a good 102 years at least, because the first properly documented tribal revolution goes back to 1783 by a tribal revolutionary by the name of Tilka Majhi, and that took place in the area of present-day Bhagalpur. Also from a political perspective, since I am entrenched in politics as a national spokesperson of BJP, I feel concerned and worried when I see some entitled politicians now trying to divide our freedom fighters and questioning the contribution of certain freedom fighters like Savarkar. So those who are questioning the contribution of Savarkar might today or tomorrow question the contribution of our unsung heroes who anyway have very little documented information about them. So before they start questioning Birsa Munda, before they start questioning Lachit Borphukan, it is important for us to write more and more about these characters and to celebrate their life. Now, Birsa Munda was a very unique character. I will briefly tell you about Birsa Munda before Manoshi ji takes you through a couple of characters from the Northeast. You need to understand that our subaltern freedom movement, our tribal freedom movement was very different from the conventional freedom movement which we have grown up reading. In the sense that the task of our tribal freedom fighters was that much more difficult. The Britishers would invariably outsource the atrocities on tribals to two sources. The first was landlords, who would unleash financial subjugation upon the poor population by 1850s, they realized that financial subjugation was not sufficient to suppress the poor population. They felt that it was equally important to culturally make them subservient or culturally subjugate that population. And therefore, in a planned way, they started introducing missionaries in tribal and backward areas. The missionaries were given targets. Every year they had to convert some 10,000 villagers in different parts of the region. So this was the second part of the British plan to culturally also subjugate the tribal and the poor population. Now, in this backdrop, in 1875, Birsa Munda was born in a poor village called Ulihatu, which is about 60 kilometers away from Ranchi. His family, the family was a family of landless laborers. Every time they would complete an assignment, they would shift to a new location to find work. So there was abject poverty, there was abject despondency, plus obviously there was the pressure of conversion, because converted Christians were getting certain advantages which the really poor population was not getting. In this backdrop, his family, obviously his initial years were spent as and when the family would shift to a new location, he would also shift to a new location. In 1886, which is when he was about 11 years old, the family took a bold decision. They felt it was important for Birsa Munda to attain Jesuit education. Therefore, they allowed him to convert to Christianity, and he was sent off to the best school in the region in a place called Chaibasa, which was about 100 kilometers, 110 kilometers away from his village. It was a boarding school. So Birsa Munda, for 4 years of his life, from 1886 to 1890, became Birsa David. It was a difficult choice. It's like sending your kids abroad. I think the situation, the sentiment may have been similar. They felt that, when he returns, he would be leading a better life in future. For 4 years between 1886 and 1890, Birsa Munda studied in a Jesuit school. He imbibed English education. But every time he would feel that the missionaries had a malafide agenda, and that was to eliminate the cultural identity of the tribals. So there were simple points of dispute. For example, every converted Adivasi who would be buried instead of, a proper Hindu-style funeral, that would become a bone of contention between the Adivasis and the Jesuits or the missionaries. And all of these points were quietly leading to a situation where Birsa Munda was getting rebelsome. And finally, in 1890, when he was 15 years old, he rebelled. He rebelled against his teachers. He quit everything and came back to the village. So imagine, from being a potential hero in the village, he was treated as a loser because they felt he had given up on a golden opportunity. So at the age of 15, he came back to his village. For nearly the next 6 months, he was treated as a loser. People would not talk to him. And in this situation, one fine day, he just left his village and nobody knew about his presence for the next 2 or 3 years. It is believed that in wilderness, while traveling from one village to the other as a wanderer, he came in contact with a spiritual guru and a healer called Anand Panrai. And his world took a different turn. Anand Panrai was a person who was very well versed with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata. Besides being a medicinal healer, using plants to heal patients. So in the company of Anand Panrai, Birsa Munda's life took a different turn, and he started learning about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and he started quoting Ramayana. In 1894, 4 years after he went into hibernation, 4 years after he went into wilderness, he came back to his village. And since the tribals anyway tend to be, and in those days, were more superstitious than they are now, it is believed that on the day that he returned, it was a very windy, it was a day when it was raining, there were thunder showers, and the person who first saw Birsa Munda return saw lightning flash out of the eyes of Birsa Munda. Now, it could be a superstition or it could be an imagined thing, but from that day onwards, Birsa Munda was seen in awe by all the villagers. And the way he would speak like a sage. He was a completely transformed man who could effortlessly quote from Bhagavad Gita, who could effortlessly quote from Ramayana. And he would preach about the unity among tribals. So within a matter of 6 months, he went on to become a spiritual guru with an unprecedented following. So there would be people who would throng to that village just to hear him speak, just to listen to his views on Adivasi empowerment. And mind you, all this while he had never imagined or he had never thought of a violent political revolution against the Britishers. But the Britishers got so paranoid seeing his popularity, Britishers started suspecting that he was quietly going to organize a rebellion against the Britishers. And hence they got him arrested on fake charges. They got him convicted. And for a good 2 years, he was in jail from the end of 1895, from around August 1895 till the end of 1897. And in those days, every second or third year, there would be a very bad famine or drought, which would actually end up claiming the lives of hundreds of people. So the time that he spent in jail, in Hazaribagh jail, was also the time which coincided with one of the worst epidemics in that area where many of his close associates were killed. So by the time that he came out in 1897, his core followers convinced him that the only way that you can teach the Britishers now is through a violent revolution. So in the last 2 years of his life, he organized a violent revolution, a very Rambo style. He took on the Britishers. His army organized many attacks on the Britishers, which really unsettled the British in that era. This happened, began on the eve of Christmas in 1899, went on till about the end of January 1900. And he was arrested in the first week of February. He was eventually sentenced. In fact, the sentencing was going on. The trial was going on. But he died in very mysterious circumstances in 1900 on the 9th of June in Ranchi jail. Now, it is believed that he was poisoned to death. So you can see that in one lifespan of a mere 25 years, the number of evolutions that he went through is simply phenomenal. He lived a life of maybe 70, 80 years. He lived the life that a normal person would live in 70 or 80 years. But the short-lived rebellion that he undertook really shook the might of the British empires in that region, and it led to one of the very important land reforms called the Chota Nagpur Land Tenancy Act of 1908, which gave a lot of rights to the tribals, which happened 8 years after his death, but that was the impact of his revolution. So before I take more time, the whole idea of talking about Birsa Munda, probably in the last 10 years, Prime Minister Modi has invoked the contribution of Birsa Munda multiple times in his speeches, but he remained unsung for most part of, let's suppose, 1947 to 2014, because our history was very aristocratic. We continued to celebrate certain heroes who did not deserve as much adulation as some of the real heroes did, which is the objective of this discussion that we are having today.
Yeah. During the last several sessions, it has been already discussed how we are the oldest surviving civilization in this world. Many ancient civilizations, including the Mesopotamian civilization, Babylonian civilization, perished within few decades of invasion. But we survived. It is all because of the continuous resistance offered by the kings across the length and breadth of Bharat for a period of over 1300 years. And in our history textbooks, we have grown up reading about the glory of all these invaders. We know lot about Mahmud of Ghazni. We know a lot about Alauddin Khilji, Qutbuddin Aibak, Akbar the Great, as already discussed, then Aurangzeb. But we hardly know about those thousands and lakhs of warriors who fought in battles. They attained victory in battles. Lakhs of our soldiers, they attained Virgati in the battlefield, all for the sake of protecting our Matrabhumi and our Dharma. And these stories of valor have not been told to us in our history textbooks. And now, since the last 15 years, because of the digital revolution, because of the research being done, like as Tuhinji has wrote about Birsa Munda, likewise many other researchers have written a lot about the valor of the unsung warriors. I have written 2 books, volume 1 and volume 2 of Saffron Swords. Part 1 contains 52 episodes of valor of warriors from the 8th century till 1947. And part 2 also contains 52 episodes of valor, both men and women, in both the volumes. So there are 104 stories covered in both the books. And my latest book on Mathura, which was released yesterday, this book contains a history of the region of Mathura from the Treta Yuga to the present conflict. So this book also has a detailed account of the resistance offered by the warriors of Mathura during Abdali's invasion, during Mahmud of Ghazni's invasion. So it has a detailed record. So I'll cover 2 or 3 facets of today's topic given to us. So let me start with a quote by Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican-born political activist and scientist. He said, "A country's people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." So we are deprived of our historicity because whatever we learn in school, it remains with us. The ideology, it happens. The ideology that we nurture, it happens right from school level, from our homes. And so the first part that I will cover is Johar. We all know about Johar, how the women, when we speak about Johar, we all know about Rani Padmavati or Rani Padmini, who along with thousands of women committed Johar in 1303 in Rajasthan, Chittor. So before that, the first Johar took place in 712 CE in Sindh. Raja Dahir's wife. So you have heard that why these women committed Johar? Because the Muslim soldiers, the Islamic forces, they committed necrophilia. You must be knowing what necrophilia is. They do not leave even the corpses, the dead bodies of the women. So the women, they committed Johar to protect their honor, to save themselves from disgrace. So the first Johar took place in 712 CE in Sindh, and Rani Bai, the queen of Raja Dahir, she defended the fort against Muhammad bin Qasim's forces. So she defended the invading forces, the late siege of the fort from all sides, and the Rani along with her army, she defended, and when she realized the defeat was certain, then she along with the women, they committed Johar in the fort, within the fort. They lit a huge funeral pyre and they committed Johar. So after that, the second Johar took place in 1303 in Chittorgarh. The third Johar took place in Kampili, in Karnataka, in the south. After Raja Kampila Deva, he was defeated against Alauddin Khilji's forces. So the women there, they committed Johar. Johar was also committed in Bengal. So before Rani Padmavati, Johar was committed in Bengal in 1226 CE. The Bir Singh of this region called Bir Singhpur. So Bengal was a vast region there. The Muslims ruled in a part of Bengal called Gaur. So the Gaur Sultanate, he attacked the kingdom of Bir Singhpur, ruled by Raja Bir Singh. And the first battle, the Hindu king won. In the second battle, like the the Gaur Sultan, he attacked again. This time he used a tactic. He used bulls and cows with burning horns in front of them because he knew the Hindu kings won't attack cows. So they used the cows as defense. And then the king, the Hindu king, he was defeated in the battle. And the queen, along with thousands of women in Bengal, they committed Johar. Johar was also committed by the queen and her followers in Gondwana. We all know about Rani Durgavati. She defeated the Sultan of Malwa. She also defeated the Mughals once. And during the second battle against the Mughals, she was defeated. She became a mother at 21. She was widowed at 26, and then she started ruling her kingdom. And she attained Virgati at the age of 40. So after she attained Virgati in the battlefield, all of the women of that region, they committed Johar. So we see that women, they simply did not commit Johar. They first offered resistance, and when then defeat was certain, then they committed Johar. Then I'm going to take one example because we don't have that much of time to cover so many aspects. So we all know about Bakhtiyar Khilji. So whatever I described about the Johar, it is covered in Saffron Swords Part 1 and Part 2. So we all know about Bakhtiyar Khilji, who destroyed our knowledge heritage. He destroyed Nalanda University, Telhara University, Vikramshila University. So do you know who defeated Bakhtiyar Khilji and made him bedridden for several months till he was assassinated? Any idea? Because we have not been taught in our history books. So there is an inscription in Kanai Varasi. So if the people say that, no, this is a false story, Bakhtiyar Khilji was not defeated by the Assam king, then inscriptional evidences can never be wrong. There is an inscription in Guwahati on the banks of the Brahmaputra in a hillock. It is known as the Kanai Varasi rock inscription. The inscription mentions the date 1206 CE. And this inscription describes the utter defeat of Khilji's forces led by Bakhtiyar Khilji at the hands of the then Assam king. The king then was Raja Prithu. So he defeated Bakhtiyar Khilji, and Bakhtiyar Khilji was so badly wounded in this battle that he could not continue with his further battlefield exploits. He could have destroyed more universities across the length and breadth of the country, but he couldn't do that. And he was assassinated by one of his own men. So in the book that was released yesterday on Mathura, so I have covered about the resistance offered by the Hindus there over a period of time. I will also describe one example of how a Brahmin, he built a temple using the materials used for building a mosque in Mathura. So it was the time of Aurangzeb. Under Aurangzeb, under the Mughals used to have fauzdars in several areas. The fauzdar of Mathura during that time was Nabi Khan. What he used to do, like under the Mughals, tax collected was known as jizya. All of us know that. So in the name of jizya, Nabi Khan used to collect extra taxes from the peasants there. And besides that, he used to collect temple wealth. And during the time of Aurangzeb, we all know about Aurangzeb's elder brother, Dahir. He was supposed to be the king after his father's death. But Aurangzeb took over, and what Aurangzeb did to gain the throne, all of us know. So Prince Dahir, when he was the fauzdar, he was also the fauzdar of Mathura for some time. When he was the fauzdar, he donated to temples. The Krishna Janambhumi temple that was there, built by Bir Singh Bundela. In the Krishna Janambhumi temple, some railings were needed to be repaired. Dahir, he donated for the railings. And he also donated for the renovation of more temples in Mathura. So when Aurangzeb became the ruler, he got all of this additions by Dahir taken away. And Nabi Singh was instrumental in doing all of this. And because Nabi Singh, he removed all the items donated by Dahir, he was rewarded by Aurangzeb. So Nabi Khan, the atrocities of Nabi Khan could not be tolerated by the peasants of that region. So the peasants under Gokula Jat, not many of us, in fact, none of us have heard about Gokula Jat in our history textbooks. Even I have not read about him in my textbooks. It is through research that I came across his name. So Gokula Jat, what he did, he accumulated a group of peasants, farmers, and they attacked the Mughal Faujdar. Even the fierce battle took place, and in that battle, Gokula Narayan, he is not known as Gokula Narayan as well, he killed Nabi Khan. So this was a major victory. And Aurangzeb further sent his reinforcements, and in the next battle, Gokula Jat was taken prisoner. And the way he was tortured to death in front of a huge gathering, it cannot be described in words. Like in the Agra fort, he was kept in a platform where thousands of people could see him. So amidst thousands of people, what the barbaric Mughals did, they dismembered his body piece by piece. And he kept still. He did not show any agony. He did not show any pain. And till the fingers, and from the limbs, the fingers, the legs, and each and every part of his body was cut, and then finally the head was separated from his body. And all of his family members were forcibly converted to Islam. Those who did not convert were killed. So prior to this, after this, we all know about Abdali. He attacked Mathura. So when Abdali's forces attacked Mathura, what was the main cause? What was the reason why Abdali attacked Mathura? Mathura was under Raja Surajmal Jat during that time. Surajmal Jat, what he did when Abdali attacked Delhi and he became the ruler of Delhi for some time, he took away the wealth of many rich people. And this Jat ruler, he gave refuge to few of the rich people of Delhi in Mathura. And Abdali wanted those men back from Mathura to Delhi. But the Hindu king, he did not give. Furthermore, his capital was Abdali's forces, they attacked Ballabgarh. And Surajmal Jat's son, Jawahar Singh Jat, he defended. And in the first battle, he won. But in the next battles, he again lost. And he somehow escaped from there. So when Abdali sent forces to Mathura, Jawahar Singh Jat, along with a force of some 5,000 peasants, they offered resistance in the outskirts of Mathura. So all of this, most of these places, they did not fall without a resistance. So for 9 long hours, Jawahar Singh Jat, along with the 5,000 farmers, they fought against the brutal forces of Afghanistan, that is Abdali's forces. And during this 9 hours of battle, almost 3,000 of the Hindu soldiers, they attained Virgati. Jawahar Singh somehow saved his life, and almost, according to Muslim records, some 7,000 of Abdali's forces were slaughtered in that battle. It was double the Hindu casualties. So after that, they attacked Mathura. It was during the Holi. It was the Holi festival was being celebrated. And Holi was played fresh once again with the deep red blood of the Hindus. Because Mathura is a tirth, so devotees from all across the country had gathered there to celebrate Holi. And thousands of these devotees were massacred. They committed, the Abdali soldiers, they committed genocide. And they did not spare even the children. They killed the children in front of their mothers, they severed the heads of the children, and they made a tower out of the heads of the children in front of the mothers. And this continued for 14 long days. And the river Yamuna turned red. And it continued to stay red for 7 long days. And then it turned yellow. These are the accounts of Muslim historians, not Indian historians. And after Mathura, this Abdalis forces, they marched towards Gokul. And there were some 4,000 Naga sadhus there that did not allow Abdalis forces to enter Gokul. And the outskirts of Gokul, they offered resistance. And they badly defeated Abdalis forces. They slaughtered most of Abdalis soldiers. Around 2,000 of the Naga sadhus, they attained Virgati in that battle. So there's all of these stories of valor need to be told in our history textbooks so that we gain motivation, we get motivated, we get inspired. Most of the youth that do not want to remember the last 1,000 years of history because it is all about defeats. Because we have been told that our ancestors, they surrendered. They surrendered easily. They did not offer resistance. Only very few stories are being told in the textbooks. And that also, for example, about the Vijayanagara Empire, we read only a paragraph in our textbooks. So all of these stories need to be told. And this is the reason why we have been doing research. Like Tuhinji, he has done research for his book. I have done almost 20 plus years of research, and then I've come up with this 2 volumes of Saffron Swords, and then the Reclaiming Mathura. And Saffron Swords Part 3 with another 52 episodes of Valor. The work is going on. And likewise, till my last breath, the work will continue. And that's it.
So, Manushiji was mentioning about Johar. Well, Johar is not so much prevalent in the tribal culture, but yes, there are many tribal women who were fierce revolutionaries who have contributed and whose stories remain unknown. One such instance which comes to my mind is the revolution of 1855, which is also known as the Santhal Revolution. I'm sure many of you may have heard about it, but not the details of it. In terms of scale, it was probably, in terms of geographical spread, in terms of its impact, it was as impactful as the 1857 War of Independence. It was led by a family of 6 siblings, 6 tribal siblings, 4 brothers and 2 women, 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Siddho Kano, Chand, Bhairav were the names of the brothers, and Phulo Jano were the name of the sisters. And most of them, all of them in fact, were in their 30s. So imagine they were married, they had children, but for the sake of fighting for their rights, they came together, led a revolution which, in terms of geography, spread from the present-day areas of Sahibganj in Jharkhand till the outskirts of almost Kolkata. It was a people's movement. It was a sporadic movement which started with 10,000 people participating in it in a place called Sahibganj on 30th June 1855. But within a span of a few weeks, the word spread across the entire region, and it, Sahibganj must be around 400, 500 kilometers west of Kolkata. It spread in that direction because the whole idea was to reach to the British headquarters, which was centered at Kolkata at that point of time, and to disrupt the British Empire. So many of these stories, in fact, when I was researching on the unsung tribal heroes, one beautiful thing which I realized was that there is no common connect. And yet, by the start of the 19th century, tribal revolutions were unfolding in almost all parts of the country. There were Bhils in Rajasthan who were participating in it. There were Gonds who were participating in it in the present-day areas of Telangana and Maharashtra, and plus the entire northeast region. There is a freedom fighter by the name of Singh who was very active in the present-day areas of Meghalaya way back in 1827-28, and he led a movement which went on till about 1832-33. So the beauty of this was that, you know, somewhere I do feel that subaltern movements were providing fodder to the conventional freedom movement which we have grown up reading, but which most of these went undocumented because by nature we tend to be dismissive of the weaker sections of society. So when they were leading this revolution, nobody thought that it would have an impact, and people started researching about these freedom fighters maybe 20 years after their death, which is one of the reasons why we don't have authentic sources of information of many of them. I would say the tribal freedom movement started way back in 1781 and went way right up to the freedom movement. The nature of it changes. In the initial stages, it was out and out guerrilla warfare. So if you look at the timeline, if it started at 1783, Birsa Munda's revolution lies somewhere in the middle of it. Post Birsa Munda's revolution also, there were freedom fighters there were tribal freedom fighters like a person from Jharkhand by the name of Jatra Orao, who led what Gandhi eventually did as the non-cooperation movement. His movement was about economically boycotting the Britishers, not selling your goods, not selling your farm produce to the Britishers. And by that logic, it was a non-cooperation movement. The official non-cooperation movement obviously happened about 13 years later by Gandhi. But there are a lot of things which we therefore need to learn from these tribal warriors. The last of these tribal freedom fighters was a distinguished parliamentarian by the name of Jaspal Munda. Have you heard, how many of you have heard, he was the only tribal representative in the Constituent Assembly. And if you read some of his speeches in terms of when it comes to Adivasi issues, he was as articulate, he was as, his views were as layered as some of the views of Baba Sahib Ambedkar were on constitutional issues. He spoke at length about the Adivasi idea of democracy, which has existed for the last 1,000 years or for last 2,000 years, which has never gone reported, which has never been studied. He spoke about why alcohol should not be, why prohibition should not be allowed, and why, that is a way of life for Adivasi. So he was a bohemian, he was a maverick in his own way. He had views which were very different, which were not conventional. But what I'm trying to say is that the nature of the Adivasi contribution to our freedom movement evolved every maybe 20 years from 1783 till about 1947. From guerrilla warfare to being a member of the Constituent Assembly, that is how diversified their contribution has been to our freedom movement. I think let us make it interactive, especially on Birsa Munda, because the legacy is still an evolving legacy, and we are approaching 150 years of Birsa Munda in 2025. And this entire year will be celebrated as the Janjatiya Gaurav Varsh by the government. It is still an evolving brand, so if anybody has a question or on any other issue, I think it would be great to make it interactive.
I'll add just 1 or 2 minutes of more text. So we have spoken a lot about the warriors. The Archakas, the priests of temples, they also have been warriors because they helped. We have survived as a civilization, not only because the warriors across the length and breadth of the country, they offered continuous resistance. It is also because of the priests, the Archakas, who saved our deities, even to the extent of sacrificing their lives, protecting the shrine, the Garbhagrihas. So there is this instance from Mathura I have described in detail in my book on Mathura that was released yesterday. So we have spoken about Nabi Khan, the Fauzdar of Mathura under Aurangzeb. So there was a Brahmin, when Nabi Khan was the Fauzdar, he built a Jama Masjid in Mathura on the remains of an ancient temple. It is still there. So when Vishnu Shankar Jain ji was speaking about freeing the temples from the masjids, those masjids that were constructed on temples that needs to be reclaimed. So he has given a detailed account on that. So in Mathura, this Jama Masjid was built by Nabi Khan over a temple ruins. So there was a Brahmin who wanted to build a temple. What he did, he used the materials that were accumulated there for the construction of a mosque. Using those materials, he built a temple. And Nabi Khan, he summoned him to his court. But the Brahmin, he did not go. So enraged, Nabi Khan again sent a messenger and he was forcefully brought to the court. He was tried and he was put to prison. And then in the prison, he was executed to death. So likewise, there are many more such stories of valor of how the Archakas or the priests, they defended the temples and they defended our dharma.
Yes, sir. You had a question.
What was the reason for that? Sorry, repeat it, please. Praveen Chandra Bhanjadev, the erstwhile ruler of Bastar in Jagdalpur, he was killed by Nehru by military action. What is the reason for that murder? Nobody knows exactly why he was killed.
Well, that needs to be investigated, but even I would not know. But the Congress per se never believed in democracy. So.
His ancestor, the Maharani of Bastar, even she was...
You have an answer? I don't have an answer.
Yes, he was a descendant of Kakatiya dynasty, and he was mobilizing that region, Bastar region, and he was shot dead in his home itself. And it was a very tragic, and we can find that very...
I believe it was in the 50s. It was in the
yes,
50s.
It's a
well, the
mid-50s.
Congress party never believed in democracy, so, I think the No, but the entire northeast region was messed up because of Nehru's flawed understanding of tribal issues. His advisor was a foreigner on tribal issues. The whole idea was, Nehru's idea of tribal upliftment, at least in the northeast, was keeping them confined to their silos. He never wanted them to mix up or to merge with the mainstream for them to get mainstream. But the kind of ghettoization that it led to and the kind of problems that led to is there for the world to see. So in fact, the Northeast, barring what has happened in Manipur in the last couple of years, has been one of the biggest successes of this government, mainstreaming the Northeast population, both in terms of infrastructure and also culturally mainstreaming them. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am and sir. Actually, I have a question. In my history textbooks, it is written that the tribals accepted Islam because of Orthodox Hinduism.
Don't read such books.
NCRT books.
No, then you pass it on to me, specific pages or the specific, we'll get it banned. Because such information is clearly corrupting young minds.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
You were speaking about Bhanjdev. So his ancestor, Maharani Prafulla Kumari Devi, when the British ruled, they dominated that region. She did not follow the British imposed rules, Maharani Prafulla Kumari Devi. And the British wanted to sell part of Bastar to the Nizam of Hyderabad then. And Bastar still is very rich in iron reserves. And the Maharani did not let it happen. So what they did when she fell ill, she was taken to London, and there, in the name of treatment, she met her end. She died. And that is still a mystery. Had she been alive and if had she returned, then the deal would not have been done.
Which specific books are you referring to? Because it's an eye-opener for me also. Which CBSE, ICSE? So it mentions that because of Orthodox Hinduism, people started converting to Islam.
Not my opinion. So they says that at one point of time the tribals were forced to be part of the mainstream, where the tribal chiefs wanted to be recognized as Kshatriyas with the help of Brahmanas by performing some rituals like Hranyagarbha or something. So
no, there is a lot of misinformation about tribals not belonging to the Hindu religion, and unfortunately there are some vested interests, which includes politicians like Hemant Soren, who are peddling this theory. So it was in fact on an online discussion at a Harvard forum where he openly had said this, that Hindus don't belong, tribals are never Hindus, they will never be. In fact, I had contested it with facts, because if you travel to most of the jungles, the small shivling that you find on mountains, or in fact, they are the most original worshippers. The tribal population are the most original worshippers of Shiva. So, and there are many other facts in Deoghar, which exists in Jharkhand again. Almost more than 50% of the visitors, of the devotees, are tribals. So it's a fake, it's a false, it's a misconception which has been peddled for a very long time and which needs to be conclusively defeated.
I would like to add to that. I visited Vastar 3-4 months back, and I was there for a week. I visited several ancient temples in that region. So there, in most of the ancient temples, the tribals, the Adivasis were the priests. They are the Archakas. So that question of Brahmanical, whatever, doesn't arise there. So that's all tribal-dominated regions. And the temples there, the Archakas are the Adivasis themselves. They are the priests.
Felt but rarely seen. That's the beauty of Unsung Heroes. Thanks to both of you for bringing out so many wonderful stories of unsung heroes of our Bharat.
Thank you.
May I now request Professor Kanagasabapati ji and Shefali Akka to release the book by Tuhin Sinha ji, Modi's Northeast Story. It's been a long pending due for your release in Coimbatore.
In fact, if Professor Sir would like to do these books in Tamil, I think that would be that would reach many more readers. In fact, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. So
the books are available. I think this is the only title of Tuhin Sinha ji available right now. Rest are sold out. And please felicitate them, both of them, sir.
I think after a very long time, my books have been sold out because people now only consider me politician. So thank you. Coimbatore has been lucky there.
And we will quickly come back by 5:25. Coffee and some snacks are there. Post which Hindu Phobia, Shantanu Gupta and Tuhin Sinha. And then a small yoga performance, and then we close the day.